Wang Ping'an, don't be sad, my life was happier than most women ever get. Her face was already pale, her lips fading. Those final words barely left her mouth. Even years later, middle-aged and half-drunk, some other woman's perfume clinging to his shirt, Wang Ping'an never forgot how his wife looked when she died. The promise he'd made her, that he'd make her the happiest woman in the world, felt like a knife twisting in his chest, his head pounded, maybe from too many memories of her. Then the darkness swallowed him whole, a brutal squeeze in his chest, so this was it, his life was over. A sigh, soft and tired, even through the fog of unconsciousness, Wang Ping'an knew that voice instantly. His wife's voice, and no matter how much time passed, he'd never fail to recognize it. His eyes flew open. He bolted upright, the name buried deep in his heart tearing from his throat, Elizabeth. But the usual gentle reply didn't come. Instead, her tone was sharp with frustration. What do you want? You got drunk again and now you're hungover. Wang Ping'an froze. Was this a dream? He'd come home last night completely wasted, so how was he waking up to his wife looking young again? And no, something was wrong. He scanned the room. A cramped, shabby little rental apartment he'd never seen before. On the wall, a calendar read January 2005. He'd been thrown 16 years into the past. Get up. It's already late. Elizabeth rushed around getting ready, dabbing on light makeup and wrapping a scarf around her neck. Wang Ping'an watched her profile, mesmerized for a moment. She'd always been the most beautiful woman in his memory. Without a trace of makeup, her face was so pure it could make every boy at school fall head over heels. Wang Ping'an never understood what good deed he'd done in a past life for Elizabeth to choose him. She'd even followed him to the same university. He'd been dead set on finance and economics. Elizabeth had zero interest in those subjects, but she forced herself through the science track just to get into his school. Good family, stunning looks, a figure even a school uniform couldn't hide. Naturally, she was the campus beauty everyone noticed. You don't need makeup. You're gorgeous without it. Wang Ping'an remembered her never wearing any. She didn't need it. Elizabeth pressed her lips together, smoothing the lipstick. I have to. It's for work. You want me to lose my job, then what would we eat? The complaints landed like a lash. His gentle wife had never sounded like this before. What was going on? Elizabeth had always been a stay-at-home wife. She'd never worked a day after their wedding. He'd been the sole provider. Since when did she have a job? Before he could sort it out, she was already heading for the door. It's freezing out. Get the kids to school and move fast so they don't catch a cold. Now he was truly lost. Kids? What kids? If this had been his old life, just the mention of children would have stabbed right through his heart. Back then, he'd been climbing the corporate ladder, grinding day and night, ignoring his 9 months pregnant wife. When he got the call that she'd fallen and miscarried, he raced to the hospital only to hear the baby was gone and she still wasn't out of danger. And then, that pale face, that final goodbye. But now, what child was Elizabeth talking about? Had everything changed since his rebirth? Elizabeth wasn't going to die. And they had a child. This was the happiness he dreamed of in his past life, standing right in front of him. Joy surged through his chest. Wang Ping'an scrambled out of bed, grabbed Elizabeth, and kissed her with a wild, desperate hunger. Good wife. I missed you so much. In their old life, she would have blushed, played along, teased him back. But this time, she frantically wiped her face and checked the mirror for smudges, her voice sharp. Wang Ping'an, what are you doing? Daddy's bullying mommy again. A small, childish voice cut through the AI. In the doorway stood 2 kids in old-fashioned school tracksuits. The older one, a boy with an uneven haircut but a face that was a near mirror image of Wang Ping'an's, had his hand clamped over the little girl's eyes. He whispered, No, kids can't see this. The girl clawed at his fingers, indignant. You're a kid too. We're gonna be late, Daddy. Let's go here. Your gloves. The boy acted like a tiny grown-up, already holding out the gloves. Elizabeth squeezed past them, the cramped space making it hard to move. All right, you two, off to school. I'll be late if I don't leave now. Wang Ping'an wanted to call her back, ask 100 questions, but all he saw was her hurried figure rushing out the door. What are your names? He still couldn't quite wrap his head around these two children who'd suddenly appeared. He was a little panicked. The shock of instant fatherhood was too much. Dad, did you drink too much? The kids seemed used to him stumbling home drunk and collapsing into bed. His son Dongni and daughter Yu moved like they were the ones taking care of him, not the other way around. Sure enough, Dongni brought him his shoes. Put these on. We need to go to school. Then he took his sister's hand and waited by the door, patient as a saint. Dad, can you stop bullying Mommy? She was crying again last night. The little girl's voice was so timid, she sounded afraid of him. Wang Ping'an didn't understand the full picture yet. He'd have to piece it together slowly. Don't worry. Dad's back now. I won't let you or Mommy suffer even a little bit anymore. Really? Dongni's face lit up. I knew Dad was the best. Wang Ping'an nodded, threw on some clothes, and took both their hands as they walked out of the rundown building. Absolutely, Dad promises. In his past life, he'd let happiness slip through his fingers. This time, he'd hold on with everything he had, even if he didn't know what price fate's cruel joke would demand. Wang Ping'an never imagined he would end up as a house husband. 1 Rebirth, and he'd gone from billionaire to a man who couldn't even figure out how to turn on the damn stove. He stared at the cold pot for what felt like forever before giving up and heading out to pick up the kids. Walking home into the bitter wind, he let out a heavy sigh. These two had drawn the short straw. In his last life, a driver would have pulled up in a Lamborghini. They wouldn't be freezing like this. Dad, don't sigh. Dongni and I were good at school today. We didn't do anything wrong. Their maturity hit him square in the chest, but then he noticed Yu staring at the convenience store, eyes locked on the lollipops displayed near the front. He patted his pockets. Empty. Not a single cent. Something sharp twisted inside him. Dongni, how have we been getting by these past 2 years? The boy didn't catch the real weight behind the question. He just rambled on about things at home, and the truth came spilling out. Wang Ping'an had followed his original path, gone to the same university as Elizabeth, and barely made it a semester before getting her pregnant. She was supposed to study abroad. The pregnancy destroyed every plan she had. He held her tight back then and promised her a warm, stable home. Said she should be a full-time wife, focus on the kids, and never worry about money. She believed him. She dropped out, had the baby, and became the youngest mother anyone in her circle had ever seen. People mocked her, called her foolish, but she was lost in the heat of it all. Even getting pregnant before marriage, she didn't hold it against him. Instead, after he graduated, she convinced her parents to give him money to start a business, and he ran it straight into the ground. In 1 year, he burned through every cent and buried them in debt. Their standard of living collapsed. Her parents ended up in the hospital from the stress. The newborn suffered right along with them. His wife had no choice but to find work, standing behind a counter selling luxury watches at a mall. That small income was all that kept them alive. And him, in the kid's own words, he was a complete failure. No job, no ambition, just a parasite waiting to die. Over time, his wife started complaining. The exhaustion drained her. She aged too fast. Her eyes were always bloodshot. Little by little, whatever hope she'd clung to in their marriage just withered away. Dad, Mom works really hard. Please stop hitting her. If you're sad, Dongni can tell you a joke. A joke. He was the joke. Wang Ping'an hadn't realized he'd sunk as low as domestic violence. That made him truly pathetic. A small hand tugged at his jacket and wouldn't let go. Dad, can we walk around a little before we go inside? It was Yu. Her tiny fingers were red from the cold, a strand of snot hanging from her nose. Why would she want to stay out in this freezing weather? We're already at the door. It's cold. Just wait until the weather's better. Wang Ping'an was always quick. He caught Dongni's expression out of the corner of his eye. The boy was staring at a luxury car parked right in front of their house. A Mercedes-Benz S600. Even from a distance, the money practically vibrated off the paint. Wang Ping'an knew cars. He pegged this one at a solid $2.5 million. For this era, it was the ultimate flex. A car like that parked in a run-down neighborhood barely registered to someone who'd once lived among wealth. But Dongni and Yu were good kids. They seemed used to this kind of thing. They started playing in the mud by the door, making no move to go inside, and then Wang Ping'an understood. His face went green with fury. He strode inside and shoved the door open with a bang. And there he was, a stranger. A young guy, probably even younger than Wang Ping'an. He wore some shiny getup that was half flashy, half trashy, chewing gum like he owned the place. A total punk. But this punk had nerve. The second he saw Wang Ping'an, he whistled. Still alive? I told you before, drink with some damn class. That cheap grain alcohol you broke people guzzle. Every bottle puts one more of you in the ground. His wife stood off to the side, stiff with discomfort. She kept her face turned away, refusing to look at either of them. Who the hell are you? What are you doing in my house? Wang Ping'an's voice came out hard. The sight of this guy made his blood boil. All he wanted was to get him out. I saw Elizabeth at the mall today, gave her a ride home, figured I'd stop in and ask, how much longer are you gonna drag this out? Sign the divorce papers already. What divorce papers? He'd just been reborn. He'd finally found Elizabeth again and she wanted a divorce. Wang Ping'an, I can't agree to your terms. I'm taking both kids. I won't let them keep suffering with you. Her voice was thin, like it cost her everything just to force the words out. Hearing his wife suddenly announce she wanted a divorce and full custody left Wang Ping'an stunned. One thing was clear. This punk was her backup. Elizabeth, don't worry, when these kids start calling me dad, I'll make sure they never go hungry or cold again. Dongni and Yu stood holding hands by the door, too scared to step inside. Elizabeth worked at the mall selling luxury watches. That was where she'd met this punk. A rich second-generation brat with daddy's money. He drove an expensive car and flaunted himself everywhere. A known playboy. Everyone knew his type. He had a thing for older women, married ones, especially. Even better if they had kids. He'd already run through more than his share. The punk lounged on the couch, legs crossed, eyes crawling over Elizabeth's body. His gaze lingered on her waist. Even after all the years and the hardship, she hadn't lost her beauty. You could still see traces of the legendary campus belle she used to be. Dongni and I don't want a new dad. Dad is the best. This is our home. We're not going anywhere. The kids were hardly in grade school, but their young voices carried a startling maturity. Yu hid behind her brother, looking up at Elizabeth with pleading eyes. Elizabeth turned away, stiff and cold, refusing to meet their gaze. She whispered, Mom is doing this for your own good. You'll understand someday. But the punk's temper snapped. Hey, you two need a lesson. Get the hell over here. The sudden sharpness in his voice made Yu flinch. She shrank behind her brother, too scared to even breathe. Chen Cheng was not about to let some arrogant little punk waltz into his home and act like he owned the place. This was his house. As long as he was standing in it, nobody was going to steal his wife or shove his kids around. You get up. He walked over and nudged the guy's leg with his foot. The idiot was sprawled out with his legs crossed like he didn't have a single problem in the world. Just looking at him made Chen Cheng's blood pressure spike. What the hell, your disgusting shoe just wrecked my pants. These are limited edition Adidas. You're paying me 10 times what they're worth. The guy stared at the grey smudge on his leg, his face going red. My house. You walk in here, you stink up the air. I'm not asking you for damages, but you're the one picking this fight. Chen Cheng just wanted the pest gone. Your house, it's a rental. And in this crappy neighborhood, who would even want it? Pay me right now, or sign the divorce papers and give up custody of both kids. This punk was after Zhongyi's looks. The way he talked down to the kids told Chen Cheng everything he needed to know about how this man would treat them. Oh, I forgot. You're a broke loser who can't even afford one pair of my pants. My advice. Sign fast, stop dragging me through the gutter with you. The guy smirked, savoring what he thought was Chen Cheng's humiliation. He was dead certain Chen Cheng would fold any second. Chen Cheng had no clue where this kid got the confidence to underestimate him. He grabbed the punk by the collar and hauled him toward the door. Listen closely. In my book, rich brats with your sick hobbies are the real garbage. You think you're better than me? Give me 2 days, and I'll put you lower than the dirt under my shoes. The guy was scrawny. When Chen Cheng yanked him, he nearly lost his footing, stumbling hard against the door frame. What are you going to do? If you lay a hand on me, I'll sue you for every cent you don't have. You won't even be able to afford this dump. The shouting terrified the 2 kids. Chen Cheng glanced at them and softened his tone. Xiao Fei, take your sister outside for a minute. Zhongyi rushed over, grabbing Chen Cheng's arm, trying to get him to let go. I know you're scared that if you stay with me, the kids will suffer. That's why you were willing to sacrifice yourself and marry this bastard. Zhongyi froze, her grip on Chen Cheng's arm loosened. It had been so long since she'd heard him say anything that proved he still cared. Lately, all she got from him were complaints and curses. What could you possibly do? The kid burst out laughing, loud and mocking. I already told you. 2 days. That's all I need. Chen Cheng tightened his fist on the kid's collar, towering over him, glaring down with teeth clenched. 2 days. Give you 2 years, no, 20, and you'll still be a broke loser in my eyes. The arrogant laughter kept rolling. If you can't do it, then get lost, and don't say I'm bullying you. If you actually pull it off, I'll get on my knees and call you daddy 3 times. Then watch me. Chen Cheng shoved the kid hard, sending him stumbling out the door. Bang! He slammed it shut, ignoring the delayed shouting from outside. Chen Cheng took his wife by the shoulders, staring straight into her eyes. I meant every word I just said. Zhongyi forced a hollow smile. I hope you did. You don't believe me. How can I? Back then, I gave you every penny I had. I even borrowed from my parents, all because I trusted you too much. The past is the past. From now on, I'll keep every promise I make. Chen Cheng couldn't bear to let go. This world had his wife and his children in it. He had to hold on to this happiness with everything he had. Zhongyi stayed silent, looking back at him for a moment. She felt like the Chen Cheng she had once loved beyond reason was standing in front of her again, so full of confidence, so bright. Just give me one last chance. Zhongyi. I love you. I love our kids. It's only 2 days. Can't you give me that? Chen Cheng had never begged anyone for anything in his life, but this time, he had to fight for himself. Zhongyi's lips parted, but no words came. Mom, just say yes to Dad. He took us to school today, and he talked about you the whole time. Yu added in her tiny voice, Mom, we don't want anyone else to be our dad. Our dad is the best. I believe him. He never lies. Zhongyi looked at her children, and tears streamed down her face. 2 days. Just 2 days. She needed an impossible amount of money in that time, But Chen Cheng hadn't made that bet on a whim. From the moment he threw down the challenge, he already knew exactly what he was going to do, winning the lottery. Some stroke of dumb luck, that was fantasy. The biggest advantage he had after being reborn was the memories of his previous life. He had a degree in economics. He'd spent years in the finance industry, building up a mountain of valuable experience. Starting from scratch now wasn't a problem. He could do it even better than before, smoother, without wasting a single step on a dead end. When Zhongyi handed over the money, she held onto it tight, fingers reluctant to let go. This is the kids' tuition, all the household expenses. I'm trusting you one last time. If this doesn't work, then, this marriage is over. Her meaning was clear. If Chen Cheng failed, they were done for good. Life was brutal. Chen Cheng understood that. In his past life, she had been a wealthy man's wife. Now she was barely scraping by, working a counter job just to make ends meet. Leaving him was the smart choice for her. Chen Cheng. Zhongyi hesitated. She wanted to tell him she loved him too, but the words came out as a sigh. I can't abandon the kids, they need a future. Chen Cheng nodded, heavy and slow. He understood everything. He squeezed his wife's shoulder and turned to leave. He went straight to an internet cafe. A few had already popped up along the streets. He found a computer, logged in, and pulled up a stock trading platform. In this era, the most convenient thing was that he could trade stocks online. Esgong Fenghua. The most explosive stock of 2005, the dark horse everyone would be talking about by the end of the year. Anyone who got into stocks later remembered this one. 25 consecutive price cap days in a single year. That was more than twice a month. Not something just any stock could pull off. A stock like that. It was exactly what Wang Ping'an had his eye on right now. Hardly anyone knew about it. Barely anyone was buying. But Wang Ping'an remembered clearly. Tomorrow morning, this stock would hit its first daily price cap of the year. The biggest jump, the fastest climb, the one that came out of nowhere. It would hit hard, and nothing would stop it. His mouse slid across the screen. A few quick clicks. A pop-up window confirmed the purchase. Every single cent from Elizabeth's card was now invested. Wang Ping'an was going all in. Everything on the line, maximum return or nothing. He hated gambling. Losing felt too damn awful, but what he loved wasn't just winning. It was the feeling of knowing he'd already won before it happened. Like now, the whole city was dark, every light out. His wife lay in bed with her back to him. He stared at the ceiling all night. Wide awake. He waited, excited, not a shred of impatience or frustration. Then dawn broke. A phone notification buzzed, not his. His wife's cheap little work phone. She'd barely opened her eyes, still half asleep, then she screamed. Wang Ping'an couldn't hide his smile. Finally. On the grainy screen, a single text message glowed, income deposited balance, 987,965.25 yuan. Elizabeth rubbed her eyes, tugged nervously at the ends of her hair, counted the digits, tens, hundreds. Wang Ping'an sat up behind her. Less than I expected, not even 1 million. 98,000 in gains. She couldn't believe it. What is this? Her mind went blank. Is it our money? A scam? Wrong number. Did you do something illegal? The questions came tumbling out. Wang Ping'an laughed. Relax, Elizabeth. I just did what I promised you. How did you do it? So much money. She turned. The weak morning light softened her features. She looked just as gentle as she had before she died in his past life. It's unbelievable. Beep beep beep, the old alarm clock went off. Elizabeth, you don't have to go to work anymore. I don't want you working so hard, especially with that creep bothering you. Wang Ping'an couldn't stand the thought of that Wu brat. With this much money, she didn't need a job. She could stay home all day, spend recklessly, and still never run out. All those years of working, and I never saved up even a fraction of what you just made. She let out a bitter laugh. Wang Ping'an. I'm sorry. Don't say that anymore. Come on. It's Saturday, the kids are off school. We're not staying cooped up in this rental place. Let's go out, all of us. He changed the subject. He didn't want her dwelling on the past. What mattered now was the future. Mom. Dad, are you fighting again? Yu stood in the doorway, eyes half shut, still groggy. She hugged her stuffed doll. The rental was so small they'd used partitions to separate the space. The two kids slept on the other side. Their voices must have woken her. No, Mom and Dad are never fighting again. Wang Ping'an smiled and picked up his daughter, wrapping her in his arms so she wouldn't catch cold. Really? Dongmi was awake too. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. She nodded at her son. Wang Ping'an. I was wrong. I blamed you so much, but you were just waiting for the right moment. All that time, you were building up to this. Wang Ping'an grinned. City center. The most bustling part of town. A real estate sales office. A brand new development, modern design. Just from the layout model, Wang Ping'an was already impressed. Location was the other big factor. He wanted inside the third ring road around the city's landmark. Nothing outside. No older buildings. Everything else, transportation, amenities, didn't matter. In just a few years, this area would explode, become the hottest spot in the city. So, you like this complex? If we live here, would you be happy? He wanted Elizabeth's opinion. After all, in his past life, he was always at the office. She'd been a full-time stay-at-home mom. The sales agent was sharp. She saw Wang Ping'an was sold and immediately turned her pitch to Elizabeth. Madam Elizabeth, this is the best complex in the area. Top-tier finishes. You'll love living here. Elizabeth hesitated, leaned in close to whisper, it's too expensive. That money you made is a lot, but it won't last forever. Buying an apartment is a huge expense. Wang Ping'an told her not to worry. Buy what they wanted, get the best. Especially a home, that wasn't something to compromise on. Don't stress about money. It's not like we're never earning again. There's way more coming. This is nothing. Elizabeth froze. She'd thought his windfall was mostly luck, something that would never happen again. The two kids were lying on the display table, playing with the mini buildings, totally absorbed. Hey, you two, move. You're in my way. A woman in sunglasses sauntered up, nose in the air. She glanced at Wang Ping'an and his family. Didn't bother hiding her contempt. Her chin could have cut glass. Move. You're not buying anything anyway. Why are you even looking? You're blocking me. Elizabeth lowered her head, embarrassed. Her clothes really weren't up to par. That woman's handbag alone cost 3 months of Elizabeth's salary. How do you know we're not buying? Wang Ping'an pulled Elizabeth close, shielding her. The woman flipped her hair and took off her sunglasses. With how shabby you look, don't make me laugh. Xiaoyun, I parked the car. A familiar voice jangled car keys as he walked into the sales office. Young Master Wu. Of all people. Yesterday he was in their rental, trying to steal his wife. Today he's buying an apartment with another woman. Elizabeth didn't look surprised. She knew exactly what kind of man he was. If it weren't for the kids, she'd never have put up with him. The woman in sunglasses had obvious crow's feet. She looked old enough to be the punk's mother, exactly his type. The woman was well past her prime, but the moment the kid walked up, she let out this breathy little sound and draped herself over his arm like they were filming a bad soap opera. It was so over the top it made your stomach turn. You promise? You said you'd buy me the penthouse. I've been waiting forever. I was getting so impatient, and then these two got in my way. So annoying. She actually stuck out her bottom lip in a pout. Wang Ping'an could not wrap his head around the kid's twisted taste. This woman was nowhere near young wife territory. Young Master Wu ignored him and stepped around to get a better look at Elizabeth. Our deal expires tomorrow. I planned to leave you alone today since you two still had to finalize the divorce, but I guess fate had other plans. He squeezed Beverly's waist. Don't worry, Elizabeth. You're still my favorite. Not that it counts yet. You're not divorced, and we're not married. Elizabeth's face went pale. So this is your precious Elizabeth. The woman looked her up and down like she was appraising livestock, then let out a contemptuous little snort. You really do have weird taste. She's pretty, I'll give you that, but so tacky. Wang Ping'an closed the distance in one stride until he was towering over her. That's my wife. Say one more ugly word and I'll split your mouth open. The force of his presence slammed into Beverly and she shrank back. What are you going to do? You're pathetic. You can't even hold on to your own wife, and now you want to act tough. Wang Ping'an turned to young Master Wu. Remember our bet? Of course. One more day and Elizabeth, plus those two brats, are mine. We don't have to wait. Elizabeth's voice sliced through, cold and sharp with disgust. Leave. I'm not divorcing Wang Ping'an. I don't even like you. If it weren't for the kids. She let the sentence hang. Kids? Who cares about those little burdens? Elizabeth, I'm giving you a shot at marrying me because you've got a face that could stop traffic. Otherwise you'd be just like her. He pinched Beverly's waist, making her yelp. She rolled her eyes, but she could not deny Elizabeth was stunning. Elizabeth's voice trembled, but her words came out strong. I was wrong about Wang Ping'an. He's the best man I know. Marrying him was the smartest thing I ever did. I forgot that a husband and wife are supposed to face the hard times together. When things got rough, I almost walked away, but I won't make that mistake again. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she looked at him. Wang Ping'an stepped forward and brushed them away with his thumb, the motion easy and unhurried. You two came here to buy a place, right? Fine. I won't get in the way, but you. He pointed at young Master Wu, the one who liked that unit. Let's not drag this out. I'll pay in full right now. The sales clerk's jaw dropped. Sir, are you sure? Full payment, no mortgage? None. He pulled out a plain black bank card and handed it to her. Run it. Young Master Wu doubled over, laughing. Why even bother pretending? Do you have any idea what a place like this costs? The down payment alone would take you a dozen lifetimes to save up. That card's probably empty. You really think you can bluff your way out of this? The woman chimed in with a smirk. Go ahead, swipe it. Wang Ping'an turned back to young Master Wu. If this goes through, what are you going to do? Don't forget what I said. The kid shrugged his jacket off one shoulder and stuck his chin out like a street thug. If you can actually buy it, I'll not only call you Dad 3 times like I said, I'll pull out my own card and buy a unit in full too. Beverly's eyes lit up. Really? Of course. If this broke loser actually has the money. But even as he said it, his gut clenched. He'd promised her a house just to keep her quiet. He'd never intended to buy one. They were only here to look. He didn't earn a single cent. Everything in his pocket came straight from his father. Strip away Daddy's money and he was nothing. He couldn't afford this place, not by a mile. And definitely not in cash. Even his father wouldn't drop that kind of money on a whim. Elizabeth instinctively reached out to stop Wang Ping'an. They'd been poor for so long. Every penny had mattered, but he patted her hand and gave her a small, steady smile. She hated that punk with every fiber of her being. Let him choke on his own words. Beep. The payment cleared. The sales clerk handed the card back to Wang Ping'an with both hands. Mr. Wang, the payment is processed. For the remaining paperwork, please. Wang Ping'an raised a hand. We'll finish the rest later. Right now, there was something more urgent. Young Master Wu stood frozen, mouth hanging open like a fish. He lifted a hand and pinched his own cheek, as if pain might tell him this wasn't real. How is that possible? There has to be a mistake. You're a broke loser. Where did you get that kind of money? Suddenly, Wang Ping'an's words from a few days ago echoed in his head. In less than 2 days, you won't even be able to see my taillights. Beverly grabbed his arm and shook it. You can't back out now. Buy me the house. Do it. Buy it. Enough. Shut your mouth. His face twisted, rage and humiliation burning through him. That he was crushed. He'd lost the game before it even started. The one thing he'd always held over everyone else meant nothing to Wang Ping'an. He had no right to strut around anymore. Now he had to follow through on his own big mouth. Uncle, you shouldn't lie. You're supposed to be honest and keep your promises. Dongmi blinked up at him with those wide, innocent eyes. Wang Ping'an crossed his arms and waited, lazy and unhurried, for the 3 words Dad. The word clung to the kid's throat like paste. Stop. Wang Ping'an cut him off. Not because he was letting him off the hook. I told you, you kneel first. You haven't even done that, and you're already stammering? Elizabeth couldn't hold it in. A laugh slipped out, bright and genuine. The look on young Master Wu's face was like he'd just swallowed a live spider. Beverly wasn't about to let it go either. She started shrieking, cursing him for lying, shoving him hard. Then she lifted her stiletto and drove the heel straight into the back of his knee. The dull, heavy thud of his knees hitting the floor echoed through the empty sales office. With a face like a man who just lost everything, he forced out 3 agonized cries that sounded more like a wounded animal than anything human. Wang Ping'an took his wife's hand. He felt her tremble, then her fingers tightened around his. Uncle, you called Daddy Dad, but you're already so old. Yu looked up at them, baffled. Mommy, Daddy, is that Uncle crazy? No, Wang Ping'an said, his tone flat and final. He just had it coming. Out of the mouths of babes in the adult world, a child's words have a way of cutting straight to the bone. The brat's face flared red. The woman beside him clenched her jaw, yanked him up by the arm, and dragged him toward the lobby. Over her shoulder, she spat one last threat. You just wait, Wang Ping'an. I'll make you regret it. Wang Ping'an let out a short, cold laugh. Nothing else. Regret. He didn't know the meaning of the word. In his past life, he'd been a billionaire. Some punk kid barely registered, not worth the air beside him. His wife was still trembling. He turned, pulled her in, and wrapped his arms around her. Don't be scared. I've got this. Zhong Ma nodded against his chest. The man holding her now wasn't the same one she'd married. Steadier, more certain. Something deep in her settled. Mommy and Daddy are hugging. Gross. Dongmi smacked both hands over Yu's eyes. The 2 little ones hovered to the side, unbearably cute. Stupid brother, you're a kid too. Yu fought back. Sir, a few more formalities to wrap up. The apartment was paid in full, so the rest of the paperwork flew by. Deed in hand, Wang Ping'an took his wife and kids to inspect their new home. 3 bedrooms. 1 living room. He liked the layout, but the place was bare. No furniture yet. The emptiness felt cold, so Wang Ping'an followed Zhong Ma back to the rental. They packed the things that mattered. Furniture could wait. By the time they finished sorting through everything, noon had hit as his wife moved toward the kitchen. Wang Ping'an caught her hand. Let's eat out. We should celebrate the new apartment. That's so wasteful. Zhong Ma sighed. 980,000 had just come their way, and over half of it had gone straight into the apartment. There were still plenty of everyday expenses staring them in the face. Food first. Wang Ping'an pulled her close, one arm sliding around her waist. Besides, your husband actually knows how to make money now. Dongmi and you deserve a good meal. He knew Zhong Ma hadn't adjusted to their new reality, so he played the kids card. Sure enough, the moment their names landed, she caved. I want the food from that ad on the street corner. Yu's eyes lit up at the promise of a treat. Yu, good food is for holidays. Today we just eat until we're full. Dongmi rubbed her head, his voice carrying way too much maturity for a boy his age. Wang Ping'an's chest tightened. How much had his kids been through to turn out this sensible? He checked the time. A new investment fund was going live tonight. A sharp glint crossed his eyes. That was his target. Once he took it down, their lives would flip overnight. Wang Ping'an, hurry up and finish packing. Zhong Ma's voice pulled him back. Coming, sweetheart. They followed Yu Yu's excited directions to a newly opened steakhouse, Outback Steakhouse. He'd eaten there plenty in his past life. Top-tier food, impeccable service. Honestly, he was surprised to find an Australian-themed chain in their city so early in 2005. The brand had deep pockets, no question, but it was still a foreign name, and it hadn't taken off in China yet. That gave Wang Ping'an an opening. In a few short years, this chain would become the biggest steakhouse brand in the world. Honey, you and the kids go ahead and order. I'll be right back. Restroom. He handed the menu to Zhong Ma and walked off. The moment he was out of sight, he changed course and slipped into the kitchen. The chain was still small in China, so the kitchen wasn't large. He found the head chef and the manager fast. The manager studied him, confused when he clocked Wang Ping'an's plain clothes. A flicker of impatience crossed his face. You're in the wrong area. Employees only. No mistake. I'm here on business. Wang Ping'an caught the irritation and let it slide. Oh. The manager tensed, wary of trouble. What kind of business? I'm interested in franchising your steakhouse. I like the brand, just want a contact number. Wang Ping'an kept his tone easy. The manager almost laughed out loud. This guy, in his cheap clothes, no way he could swing a franchise, but the boss had been clear. Every customer counts. So he dug out a business card and handed it over. Wang Ping'an took it and left without another word. He didn't have the capital yet, no point in pressing. Back at the table, his wife had ordered 3 steaks. He shook his head. That's not enough, not even close. It is, the kids don't eat much. Zhong Ma had seen the prices, nearly 100 per plate. They absolutely could not afford to throw money around. Wang Ping'an didn't argue. He understood exactly where her anxiety came from. In the end, all 3 steaks landed in the kids' stomachs. Wang Ping'an and Zhong Ma took barely more than a bite between them. Still, they were happy. After lunch, Wang Ping'an said he wanted to head out and hunt for a decent job. Clean excuse, good reason to peel off from his wife and kids. Dongmi, you're the responsible one. He pressed a takeout box into his son's hands. I got this steak for Mommy, make sure she eats it, okay? She barely touched her lunch. Dongmi nodded, solemn. Wang Ping'an headed off. He hit the same internet cafe as the day before, rented a terminal for a few hours, and settled in to wait for the investment fund to launch. While he waited, he pulled up Toyota on the stock market. He sank a quarter of his remaining capital into ITBY tomorrow. That should bring a decent gain. He let himself a small smile. Time slid past exactly 8 o'clock. He opened the fund's website in the same breath. His backup page failed to load. Wang Ping'an grinned. So the old sharks in this era were just as fast as he remembered. Somebody had already pounced. Wang Ping'an wasn't someone you could push around. With a past life's worth of memories, he could spot small projects with real potential in his sleep. He already knew which mutual fund picks were guaranteed winners. The year was 2005, the same year he'd first tried his hand at arbitrage, and he remembered every twist the market took. Worrying was the last thing on his mind. He transferred the leftover funds from his bank card into the capital pool in one clean sweep, excitement flickering in his eyes. But after a sleepless night, exhaustion slammed into him. He didn't fight it. He shut down the computer and headed home. Morning came. Wang Ping'an woke to his wife's voice, still groggy. He rolled over and tried to pull her close, desperate for a few more minutes of sleep. You shoved him hard. What's going on? He mumbled, the weight of exhaustion dragging at every word. Yu's face held disbelief. What were you doing last night? Why is there another million plus in the account? 2 nights in a row every morning, another message about $1 million deposit. It was starting to unsettle her. Wang Ping'an rubbed his temples, knowing exactly what she was thinking. I went for a walk yesterday afternoon and overheard some office workers talking about the stock market. I put in a little money based on what they said. The returns just came in. It wasn't exactly a lie. He planned to turn this into something bigger down the line, so easing her into it now was the smarter play. Yu nodded. She didn't know much about stocks, but she understood that big returns meant big risks. Just be careful, honey. That single word, honey, sent a thrill straight through him. He grabbed her and kissed her wildly until she finally pushed him away, breathless. Only then did he stop. They fooled around a little longer before Wang Ping'an dragged himself out of bed to wash up and get dressed. That morning, he took both kids to a nearby fresh milk shop for a big breakfast. Then, using a walk as an excuse, he called the manager from the day before. After a few rounds of cajoling, the manager showed up at the agreed spot, half skeptical and half curious. Rueli coffee shop. The place was elegant, with soft instrumental music floating through the air and the rich scent of fresh coffee. Hanging over everything, Wang Ping'an took a leisurely sip of his black coffee, a slow smile spreading across his face as he studied the young manager sitting across from him. Mr. Wang, is everything you said on the phone real? You're not messing with me? The manager frowned. He couldn't see this guy as an investor, yet here he was. Why would I lie to you? I'm serious about investing in your steakhouse for the long haul, Wang Ping'an said, his tone completely sincere. The manager hesitated, still uncertain. The man's clothes were far too ordinary. Could I see some proof of your financial standing? Something to back this up? Then I might be able to get my boss here. Translation: show me you've got the money. Wang Ping'an understood the blunt skepticism. The guy was just doing his job, verifying the details. I don't have official financial documents, but I've got this. Wang Ping'an handed over his beat-up old phone. On the screen was the information for one of his bank accounts, the same one that had been credited just last night. The manager's eyes flew wide. His entire attitude shifted in an instant. Well, damn, rich people really did move like this. Low-key and unassuming. Remembering how dismissive he'd been earlier, he suddenly felt like an idiot. He pulled himself together and didn't waste another second. I'll call my boss right now. Wang Ping'an's account wasn't massive, just a few $100,000, but in this day and age, that was more than enough to invest. The manager's sudden attitude adjustment didn't surprise him at all. The owner of Outback Steakhouse got the manager's message and arrived at the coffee shop in record time. She was a stylish woman in a black mink coat, her hair curled into an elegant wave, pure rich wife energy. With her striking looks, she drew eyes the moment she walked through the door. She spotted the manager and Wang Ping'an, slid her sunglasses down her nose, and settled into the chair across from him with effortless cool. Hi, I'm Elizabeth, owner of Outback Steakhouse. I hear you're interested in investing? Elizabeth, the name fit. She'd be worth billions soon enough. Wang Ping'an cleared his throat. Yes, I really like. Then let's cut to the chase. You looking for long-term or short-term? Long-term's the smarter play right now. Dividend returns from shares are solid. She cut him off. All business. Wang Ping'an's mouth twitched as though the boss lady was the impatient type. Fine by him. No point dragging things out. Long term. I'll put in 800,000 for shares and dividends. Elizabeth's hand froze mid-reach for her coffee. Her mouth fell open. Wait, what did you just say? You're sure you want to invest 800,000? That was a serious number. Her food company's maximum investment cap was only $1 million, and Wang Ping'an's offer came right up to the edge. Wang Ping'an smiled and nodded. Elizabeth's expression turned serious. Then tell me a bit about yourself, and we'll go handle the paperwork at the relevant office. Their conversation flowed smoothly. They each got a solid read on the other. He walked away with the signed contract and all the necessary documents. Wang Ping'an tucked them away carefully. This was his first long-term investment since coming back, a little treasure that would prove its worth in spectacular fashion later on. Mr. Wang, congratulations on becoming a shareholder in Outback Steakhouse. Want to grab lunch today? Elizabeth was in high spirits. Wang Ping'an shook his head. Can't. I've got a wife and kids at home. They haven't eaten yet. In his past life, he was always too busy for his wife. He wasn't about to repeat that mistake. Elizabeth lifted an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. Didn't expect that. You're so young and already have a family. Of course, young and strong, Wang Ping'an said, flashing a mischievous grin. Elizabeth shot him a knowing look and rolled her eyes as she pulled the car door shut. Your kids and your wife are lucky to have a husband and father like you. Let's keep in touch. With that, she drove off in her BMW 3 Series S. The car faded into the distance. A hint of something dark flickered in her eyes. Life feels incomplete without fried chicken and beer, Chen Cheng muttered offhandedly. Zhongyi rolled her eyes. You've got to be kidding me. Fried chicken? She shot him a skeptical look. Bird flu is still a thing. Better steer clear of chicken. The words triggered something in Chen Cheng's memory. Right from 2004 through early 2005, a bird flu panic had the whole country in a chokehold. Poultry farms went under all over the place, owners left with nothing. Now, cities and villages sat dotted with empty land. Honey, I'm heading out. Chen Cheng sprang up from the bed and dug through his sparse wardrobe for something decent. Xiaofei, what's gotten into your dad? Zhongyi stood in the living room, baffled by his sudden energy for Chen Cheng. This was a golden window. Whether he could fatten his wallet fast depended entirely on how he played this. The bird flu had gutted the poultry industry, and owners desperate to salvage anything were happy just to see cash. This is the place. He cleared his throat and tugged his jacket tighter. Not every man in a suit had a BMW idling at the curb. Hello, excuse me. The farm owner, Zhu Dengfeng, leaned listlessly against the railing, not bothering to speak. He'd plastered transfer notices all over town for days, and hardly anyone came by. Even after he'd culled every last bird, people were still too spooked. Honestly, I didn't want to come here. Guys like me can't stand the smell of poultry, Chen Cheng said with a smile, then got straight to the point. He wanted to buy the farm. Wait, did I hear you right? The owner froze. This guy walked in dressed like a smooth operator and immediately started talking acquisition. Had to be some overseas returnee back then. A suit and tie still made people look twice. You heard me. This is a one-time offer. I saw your ad. 30,000. I'll give you 5, but you have to clean up the whole place yourself. Zhu Dengfeng stood up, ready to throw him out, but $5,000 was still money. 5,000's way too low, and why land alone is worth more. If you're serious, 15,000 and it's yours. Sweat beaded on Zhu Dengfeng's brow. In all his years, he'd never met such a ruthless negotiator. No deal, Chen Cheng said with a wave. If there's any bird flu residue left on your farm, I bet you won't sell it for even 500. Want to bet? The words hit Zhu Dengfeng like a punch. He fell silent. What if his farm really did have a problem? But who could say for sure? And if it didn't, why was he selling at all? Seeing the owner's expression, Chen Cheng smirked. Take the deal while you can. I don't want your equipment or tools, just the land. He tossed a leather bag onto the table. Inside was 5,000 in cash, money he'd just withdrawn. If you agree, the cash is yours. We can sign the contract now. Zhu Dengfeng had never seen a buyer so eager. He hesitated, then signed. 5,000 was enough to keep him afloat. Pleasure doing business. Don't tell anyone about this, Chen Cheng said, sliding the contract over. He'd prepared it at a print shop earlier. Mind if I ask what you plan to do with the farm? Zhu Dengfeng's curiosity got the better of him. It wasn't often someone bought everything and nothing at the same time. I'm growing some fruit. After Zhu Dengfeng signed and pressed his thumbprint, Chen Cheng took the gate key and walked away. What the owner didn't know was that before coming to Dafeng Farm, Chen Cheng had already negotiated with 13 smaller farms in the area. Not purchase agreements, lease contracts. He didn't have enough cash to buy everything outright. Leasing was smarter because he had bigger plans in store. While everyone gossiped about the fool who bought a chicken farm in the middle of a crisis, they slowly realized the same man was behind multiple acquisitions. 6 months from now, by the end of the year, Suguo will launch its rural commerce initiative. That's the blueprint for supermarket convenience stores. Chen Cheng murmured to himself. He knew time was running out, barely 6 months to prepare. He had to use every piece of land he'd secured to turn things around. God knows I've only got 100,000 left, he thought with a grimace. This was going to squeeze him dry, but luckily, there was always a helping hand. Back in the day, he'd been pretty tight with Feng Yilu until that guy went down the wrong path and ended up dead as a thug. Time for your big brother to save you, buddy. When Feng Yilu saw Chen Cheng walk up, he almost fainted. Dude, what's with the look? You trying to pass for a rich second generation? Feng Yilu was a broke loser just like Chen Cheng, except his family owned a few fruit orchards. That was exactly why Chen Cheng had come. Enough with the wisecracks. My old man has a huge fruit order, and I need a supplier. Got any connections? Feng Yilu couldn't help noticing something different about Chen Cheng. Sure, the suit was part of it, but it was more than that. His whole vibe had shifted. Stop messing with me, Chen. Where's this mysterious father of yours even get a fruit order? Let's not play games, Feng Yilu said. Skeptical. He knew Chen Cheng better than anyone. A lifelong failure. Only a short-sighted guy like you wouldn't believe me. My old man just gave me a factory. Chen Cheng grabbed Feng Yilu and dragged him outside. Their only ride was a Phoenix bicycle. They didn't talk much on the way. Feng Yilu had already written off the whole thing as another one of Chen Cheng's scams. But when they reached the factory, he stared, utterly dumbstruck. Hold up, Chen Cheng, you actually pulled this off. When did our dad, set this up? Feng Yilu stared at him, eyes wide. He never saw this coming. I'm telling you because we're brothers. I wouldn't waste my breath on anyone else. Chen Cheng said it like he was handing out a gift. He had to sell the image, control the narrative. And Feng Yilu bought it completely, folded right there on the spot. He said his family's orchard could supply everything. No conditions. If Chen wanted, they could pull fruit from the entire village. Good. Knew I wasn't wasting my time. Chen leaned back. But my old man says payments next month. You know how it is, big operations, cash flows. He doesn't sweat the small stuff. Then he bumped the price 50 cents per pound. Don't laugh at 50 cents. A T-scale. That number stacks up fast. Feng Yilu lost it. He grabbed Chen and hugged him like they hadn't seen each other in 10 years, planting kisses on his cheeks. Anybody walking by would have thought the man had been pining for decades. Fruit sorted. Next problem, machinery. Chen wasn't about to do the labor himself. They were looking at a few £1,000s of fruit, maybe over 100,000, and it all had to go through an all-natural process. Not everyone knew the real operation behind this fruit and vegetable factory was a working orchard. One more thing. Who's got a packaging machine? A packaging machine. That stopped Feng Yili cold. He genuinely didn't know anyone with that kind of equipment. Chen, what do you need that for? We're selling fruit. What's a packaging machine got to do with fruit? Idiot, who said he was just flipping fruit, tacking on 50 cents a pound and reselling it? Did Feng think his head was full of rocks? And that wasn't even all of it. He needed a roaster too. Better yet, he wanted the whole production line. Let me ask around when I get back, Feng Yili said. He thought he'd seen one somewhere in the village, but he couldn't remember which businessman had it. Too many years had passed. Nobody knew what Chen Cheng was planning. Nobody knew where all that fruit was headed, but that 50-cent margin was enough. Fruit farmers started lining up at his door, practically shoving each other to deliver. Before the factory was even finished, a whole crowd of vendors had already gathered outside. Polyethylene plastic. That's the one. Chen had picked the second largest plastics manufacturer in town. Solid process, lower price. The real reason, they were losing ground. Competition had chewed them up, and now they were trapped in a price war. Bring me your boss, Tang. Tell him to come out. My old man sent me. Chen walked in like he owned the place, suspicious as hell, but his attitude was so cocky the security guards didn't dare stop him. Go tell boss Tang there's a VIP out here. Within minutes, Tang Xing, the factory owner, came rushing out. He spotted Chen Cheng right away. The sharp suit, the way he stood in the crowd like he was the only thing worth looking at. And you are? You don't recognize me? Short memory you've got. Boss Tang. My old man gave you work, and look how you handled it. This little factory of yours can't be doing too well, can it? Chen was bluffing with both hands. He'd guessed Tang Xing's supply chain had hit a wall. That's the only reason he dared push this hard. He wouldn't have tried this stunt with the #1 plant. Tang Xing froze, his eyes narrowed, studying Chen like a puzzle. Truth is, my old man wants to give you another shot. A way to make things right. Then Chen walked straight into the office building like he'd been there 100 times. His confidence was so natural, so easy, that everybody in the yard swallowed the act. This rich kid standing in front of them had clearly arrived with orders from the top. What they didn't know was that Chen had simply watched where Tang came out from 3 minutes earlier. The right clothes, the right presence. Everything clicked. Inside the office, Chen sat down without being asked. He cleared his throat. How many plastic packages can your line crank out in a day? I'll take them. 0.5 cents apiece. 5 cents, that was solid. The actual market price depended on material grade and manufacturing process. Higher polypropylene purity meant a different number. Food grade certification pushed it even higher. If you don't mind me asking, Tang Xing leaned forward. What do you need that volume of packaging for? He couldn't help himself. The man hadn't even gotten to the real negotiation yet. What I need is my business, but plastics. I know plastics better than you. Chen had studied the entire manufacturing chain, every material classification, every process variation. In 2005, his brain was a supercomputer nobody else had. Thermoforming, cast extrusion. Two-component injection compression molding. These terms flew over Tang Xing's head, but they flooded through Chen's mind like second nature. In Tang's eyes, this was clearly some overseas returnee. A brilliant one. And somewhere in the back of his memory, he felt like there really was a figure like this, some young titan he'd heard whispers about. 5 cents. 5 cents. Volume's massive. Hope you can keep up, but payment's a month out. Tang Xing let out a short laugh and shook his head. Nothing in life comes free, he said. His situation wasn't strong enough to float those terms. Your loss. Then, you just watched your biggest client walk out the door. Chen stood and left without looking back. The second he cleared the office, he pressed his back against the corridor wall and pulled out his phone, or at least, put it to his ear. Dad, don't worry. I'm still hunting for a manufacturer. This one turned me down. I know you gave me tens of millions, but I've got to spend it smart. He kept going, full volume, threatening to teach the #1 factory's management a lesson about vision, about recognizing opportunity when it walked through the door. Words meant nothing to the speaker, but they echoed inside Tang Xing's head like a drumbeat. Mr. Chen cut him off without turning around. What now? I'm busy. Talk to my secretary. He shoved his hands in his pockets and kept walking toward the gate. What nobody saw, when he pretended to take that call, there was no phone against his ear. Life's a stage. In front of opportunity, the performance never changes. Mr. Chen, wait. Chen Cheng turned calmly, but Tang Xing caught his arm. Mr. Chen, I was out of line. I didn't recognize a real player. Let's rework the deal. Tang Xing offered to drop his price by a penny, 4 cents a unit on the entire transaction. No money down. Payment wouldn't be due until the following month. You're hungry for this deal, Mr. Tang. Fine, I'll be direct. My father's project isn't massive, but it's more than enough to make you rich. Stick with me, and you'll cash in. Chen passed him an address and said his people would pick up the product in a couple of days. You don't want me to deliver? Tang Xing stared, confused. He was itching to see Chen's factory, to find out if it was really as impressive as the man claimed. No need. My crew handles everything. Pleasure doing business. Without a backward glance, Chen walked away. He hadn't expected Tang Xing to chase him like that. If the man hadn't seen what he could do, the situation could have turned ugly. After a moment of thought, Chen made a mental note. The first thing he needed after this turnaround was a car that night. Feng Yilv rushed to Chen's door, only to get a sharp scolding from Zhongyi. It's not a disaster. What about the packaging machine? Everything else was in place. The packaging machine was the final piece, and Chen knew better than to trust something so critical to just anyone. He'd been in business long enough to see exactly where his food operation was vulnerable. Brother Chen, I covered the whole town. Finally found one. An uncle of mine has a machine, but it's old, no clue if it even runs. Feng Yilv was still panting from his sprint, but instead of leading the way, he stood there, frozen. Chen caught it immediately. Just say what's on your mind. We can talk it through. It's not that, Brother Chen, but the packaging machine isn't cheap. And the whole thing is covered in foreign writing. I couldn't read a single word. Feng Yilv's voice trailed off, embarrassed. He hadn't realized the machine was imported. Chen let out a short laugh. If a packaging machine didn't have foreign labels, it wouldn't be efficient enough. These units had all been shipped from Japan a few years back. They weren't cutting edge, but their efficiency and quality control were excellent. That alone made them worth keeping. Without wasting time, Chen told Feng Yilv to get on the bike. They took turns pedaling toward the distant uncle's house. Don't say a word when we get there. I'll handle it. Chen knew that anyone who owned an imported packaging machine in this day and age wasn't some illiterate. Men like that had lived through 2 eras. You couldn't just bluff them. So, Feng Yilv, where's the packaging machine you mentioned? Let me take a look and see if it'll do. Chen cleared his throat and walked in with the easy authority of someone who owned the room. Right this way, right this way. Feng Yilv forced a chuckle and pushed the gate open. They stepped straight into the main hall. Zhao Nongming's expression flickered when he saw Chen. Since when did his nephew have a friend this polished? If I may ask, what are you planning to use the packaging machine for? Don't ask about things that aren't your business, just name your price. Chen's tone was bold, his expression natural, nothing flashy, just pure confidence. Well, Zhao Nongming didn't know what to say. The machine had been collecting dust for ages. Sure, it was advanced equipment, but sitting there useless, it was less valuable than a brick. Don't hesitate. Give me a number. If it feels right, I'll buy it. Hearing that, Jiao Nongming stammered out a figure. It wasn't astronomical, but it was miles from what Chen had in mind, and no way he'd swallow that. 80,000 is too much for something that needs constant maintenance. 30,000 is fair. It might have been expensive back in the day, but without Japanese engineers to service it, it's nothing but a ticking time bomb. Chen's words left Jiao Nongming speechless. Even Feng Yilv stood stunned. For the first time, he realized how far apart their worlds really were. When had his friend absorbed so much knowledge? Mr. Chen, since you're serious, I can accept that price. Pay up and it's yours. Jiao Nongming didn't argue. The truth was exactly as Chen had described. If the machine couldn't run, it wouldn't sell for even $300. To someone who understood it, it was gold. To everyone else, it was less than scrap. Here's 10,000 as a deposit. I'll pay the rest at the end of the month. Chen could have bought it outright, but he couldn't freeze all his cash. If he did, he'd never be able to scale fast enough. He couldn't pull a business empire out of thin air. That works, but when the end of the month comes, will the 20,000? Jiao Nongming hesitated. 25,000. The extra 5 is a service fee, for your trouble. Chen shot a look at Feng Yilv, who grunted as he hauled the heavy machine away. Now the bike's back seat was useless. The thing weighed a ton. They had to push it along slowly, step by step. Back at the factory, Chen didn't let Feng Yilv leave. He gestured for him to sit down. He had orders. Come with me to the job market first thing tomorrow. We need to expand. Can't run a factory with just the two of us. Chen could barely contain his eagerness. If it weren't so late, he'd have fired up operations right then and there. But one critical problem sat in his gut. The local reputation of food factories was terrible. The industry was a swamp, full of backroom workshops churning out products that failed quality checks and were often dangerous. Food safety regulations were still about 5 months away. If he could lock in his distribution channels before they hit, he could expand non-stop. Why are you so happy today? Did Feng Yilv really crack you up that much? When he got home, Zhongyi gave him a suspicious once-over. This version of Chen Cheng was rare. It's not about right or wrong, it's a secret. I promise you'll never have to worry about money again. You'll be set for life. Why you didn't feel any relief? The last few days had put her on edge. If Feng Mingdong was doing something illegal for cash, the fallout would be catastrophic. Feng Mingdong, just be straight with me. Are you into something shady? I don't mind living simply. That's not the issue, she sighed, already reading the answer on his face. What are you thinking, babe? Everything I'm doing is completely legal. We'll be living the good life before you know it. He laughed and ruffled her hair. He couldn't resist those little shows of affection. She blushed and shoved his hand away. Quit it. Daddy's picking on mommy again. Daddy. Their son, Dongni, had the worst timing. Feng Mingdong had to back off. Son, what do you want to eat? Dad'll buy it for you tomorrow. He was feeling generous with everything about to fall into place. Even a 5-star dinner didn't seem like a big deal. The next morning, he and Feng Yang headed to the job fair. It still ran on the old-fashioned direct hire model, everyone holding up signs listing their skills and experience. He turned to Feng Yang. No college grads. They're in demand. Sure, but we need factory workers. After checking the going rates, about 500 a month for operators, Feng Mingdong decided to offer a little more. Hiring 10 operators, men get 550, women 500 NO1 over 35 hard workers preferred. Other bosses had arrived early, but Feng Mingdong's shout grabbed everyone's attention. Hey boss! That's way too low. Operating's hard labor. I could do better than that anywhere else. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. Maybe for a different job. Plenty of people had sky-high expectations. He didn't care. He had his own plan: start low, sweeten the deal later. I'll name a number, 600. The second he said it, the crowd swarmed him, all 10 spots filled within half a minute. But when the workers actually reached the factory, they realized the work wasn't that complicated. All we're doing is processing, he told them. The fruit won't keep long, so we'll compress it into filling. He needed to run a quick training session first. These workers weren't highly educated, so explaining everything took some effort. Boss, are you making pies? We don't even have an oven or a stove. Pies? Feng Mingdong stared at Feng Yang, a little offended. After all the prep he'd done, they still didn't get it. I'm making pie, real pie.it won't make sense if I explain, but I guarantee it'll be a hit. He said it with total confidence. No food factory had ever produced pie like this, and he was about to change that. Baking was a major hurdle. The molds and machinery were problems too, but he hadn't gathered all that fruit for nothing. The mixer gets here, and that's when everything changes. He didn't have many ways to get a mixer, but he was part owner of a local steakhouse. That made things easier. Boss Feng, I brought the stuff. You've got 1 month. If the warehouse audit finds it missing, I'm screwed. The kid took off without another word. If Feng Mingdong hadn't tipped him well, he wouldn't have risked it. Whoa, how'd you get a machine that big? Feng Yang pulled open the factory door as a truck unloaded the mixer. This thing runs on a program. Just set it today, let them wash the fruit and start mixing. He wasn't going to do a half-assed job. He didn't know the exact early recipes, but he knew the perfected production line from a few years later. You guys get to work. I'm heading back to the job fair. By evening, the job fair wasn't for job seekers anymore, it was for middlemen and distributors. Feng Mingdong wasn't after their channels, he wanted them to distribute his product. Hey, Boss Feng. Wang Ping'an waved from his tricycle. He'd sold Feng Mingdong a ton of fruit. A customer with that kind of demand was unforgettable. Wang, I need a favor. Distribute for me. Pay per truckload, commission on each load. Sound good? Sure. Wang Ping'an agreed without a second thought, but he had one condition to set. I know what you're thinking. Feng Mingdong cut in before the man could speak. Whether it sells or not, I'll pay you the standard rate for the truck. These guys were terrified of getting stuck with unsold inventory. If Feng Mingdong took that risk off their shoulders, they'd work a hell of a lot harder. Tricycles were their livelihood. With panels attached, the cargo space was bigger than it looked. He estimated 1,000 units per load, so he set the commission at 15. 15 per run? Wang Ping'an was stunned. He never expected a rate that high. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No one argued, everyone agreed. Starting today, a dozen small shops would become his strategic bases. He was ready to fire his first shot here. He'd handled all the packaging design himself. But now that production was starting, he couldn't keep Li Changyu out of the loop. Li Changyu had never seen anything so modern. No gimmicks, just the word pie bold and centered. Apple pie, orange pie, pineapple pie, whatever you could think of. Feng Mingdong's factory had it. One issue is shelf life. We can seal them in plastic, but without nitrogen flushing, storage will be a problem, Li Changyu warned. I've already thought of that. Your brother-in-law runs a gas station, right? Right, his brother-in-law ran a gas station. Wang Ping'an opened his mouth to agree, then froze. How did General Manager Liu even know that? You almost got me. Spill it. Mr. Liu. Where's your intel coming from? Feels like I've got zero privacy around you. Come on. I heard a while back that your brother-in-law Wu Dao runs the station. This is a win-win. You don't want me taking my business to the next town over, do you? General Manager Liu had done his homework. He knew Wang Ping'an's situation inside and out, right down to the nitrogen source. Fine, but I have to ask him first. No guarantees he'll say yes. Still, the fact that Wang Ping'an was willing was enough. The moment General Manager Liu had that, the deal was as good as done. Wang Ping'an pulled out his phone and called his brother in law. No answered. He wasn't about to let a client like General Manager Liu slip away. He gestured for the man to get in, then gunned his beat-up Pegasi straight for the station. Brother-in-law, hey, brother-in-law. Wang Ping'an yelled from half a block away, but no one came out. He hit the gas and slipped into the station's entrance, braking with a jolt. Careless. Always so careless. When are you going to learn? Wu Dao shut his eyes for a second, already tired. This brother-in-law of his never stopped creating chaos, but then he spotted the man in the suit through the car window. He didn't recognize him. Hold on, brother-in-law. Let me introduce you. This is my good friend and business partner, Mr. Liu. Wang Ping'an hurried to open the door for General Manager Liu, like he was afraid the man might feel a single bump. Mr. Wu. General Manager Liu, pleasure to visit your station. General Manager Liu clasped his hands behind his back, nodding as he looked around, clearly pleased. Wu Dao grabbed Wang Ping'an by the arm and pulled him aside. He lowered his voice. What's your angle this time? Who is this guy? It's Mr. Liu. His father's a big deal in the upper ranks. Before Wang Ping'an could finish, General Manager Liu cleared his throat and stepped toward Wu Dao with an easy smile. I need a large supply of nitrogen. Can you fill some tanks and deliver them to my factory? Wu Dao blinked. He didn't know of any young factory owner matching this description, but a customer was a customer. He wasn't about to turn one away. Of course. No problem. How much are we talking? Wu Dao rubbed his hands together with a grin. No wonder his left eye had been twitching all morning. He'd stumbled onto a money tree. Start with 10 tanks. We'll figure out the rest once I see the output. I won't know the exact demand until the line is running. General Manager Liu was being straight with him. If production couldn't keep pace, more gas would just sit there wasting money. The stuff was volatile. Every extra day in storage was a loss. Alright, 10 tanks it is. As for payment, Wu Dao started. Wang Ping'an clapped a hand over his mouth. We'll settle that next month. We can't mess up Mr. Liu's business, right? General Manager Liu kept his expression neutral, but it was obvious the gesture pleased him. Since you two trust me and are willing to do me this favor, I'll accept payment next month. He immediately called his workers to start loading the tanks. He wasn't leaving without those 10 canisters. With that, the whole factory kicked into gear. Every station on the assembly line was back on schedule. Boss, the efficiency today is solid. Everyone's got the rhythm down. Feng Yang pointed at the workers with a smile. He'd been strict about hygiene, and it showed. Mr. Liu, these gloves and aprons are ridiculous. You can't expect us to mix the filling with our bare hands. A worker dropped his filling and crossed his arms, complaining about how clumsy the gloves were. You wear the gloves. We don't cut corners on food safety here. If you can't follow the rules, you're free to walk anytime. General Manager Liu had all his pieces in place. A few grumbles didn't worry him. If these workers quit, he had a whole market full of people ready to replace them. When the nitrogen tanks arrived, Feng Yang finally understood what his boss was building. The setup alone was something he'd never seen. He knew, without a doubt, that this novel concept would take the town by storm in 2005. Let me explain. This is called a pie. They eat them a lot in the West. It's basically a Western-style stuffed pastry. We're using baking techniques instead of frying or steaming. General Manager Liu added that they were still refining the process, so he hadn't bothered calculating long-term shelf life for short-term sales. It wouldn't matter. No one in the city had ever laid eyes on a product like this. As far as he knew, The first fully automated production line for this wouldn't appear until late 2005. By then, he'd have already moved on to the next thing. Come check this out. First batch of pies. General Manager Liu pulled them from the nitrogen-cooled container. The nitrogen was ice-cold, locking in every ounce of freshness. Aren't these basically the stuffed pastries we already make? What's so special? The workers grabbed them, confused, then they bit in. The moment the taste hit, they understood these were nothing like anything they'd ever made. Whoa, what the hell is this thing? They wolfed down 2 pies in just a few bites. The fruit flavor was intense, and the texture was a revelation. That's it. Tell them to come pick up the goods in 3 hours. At General Manager Liu's order, Feng Yang froze. He couldn't figure out why they'd deliver at this hour. There was no business in the middle of the night. Boss, shouldn't we notify them tomorrow morning? This late seems off. Nothing off about it. We get these pies onto shelves in the dead of night. We own the market by sunrise. Every grocery store, street stall, and corner shop will be stocking our product by tomorrow afternoon. General Manager Liu's voice was absolute. This is it. We win or lose tonight. Feng Yang saw the confidence in the man's eyes and nodded, his uncertainty vanishing. He didn't understand the market, but he understood one thing. General Manager Liu would lead him to victory. In truth, the customer base was a lot wider than Wang Ping'an had imagined. The delivery men hadn't thought much of the small, individually wrapped pastries. They were puffed up, lightweight in their minds. This was just another gimmicky snack in flashy packaging. But the moment they dropped the boxes off at the convenience stores, they realized how wrong they were. A store owner tore open a package. The rich, fruity scent hit the air, then came the crunch as he bit into one. I can't help myself. One of the drivers pulled out cash and bought a bag. A single bag was only $1. After he finished eating, his face lit up. Every other driver stared at him, dying to know what it was like. Incredible, give me a few more. He grabbed 5 bags and started wolfing them down. Me too. Me too. Wang Ping'an hadn't expected his first customers to be the very delivery men he'd hired, but word spread fast through the nearby residential blocks. Elderly men out for their morning tea, parents dropping kids at school, everyone crowded around. Try our new product. It's delicious. The store owners hung up the sales pitch Wang Ping'an had prepared. If it's not good, you don't pay. A bold claim only he would dare to make, but the morning response was all the proof they needed. The appeal wasn't niche at all. By lunchtime, Wang Ping'an had just sat down to rest when the delivery drivers burst in. What's wrong? He was startled at first, then quickly realized they might be here to demand payment. Boss Wang, we need more stock. Give us everything you've got. We'll haul it all. One of the foremen shouted, terrified Wang Ping'an would turn him away. Hold on. You're saying the entire morning shipment is completely sold out? Wang Ping'an finally caught the key detail in their words. He hadn't expected the effect to be this fast. Yeah, sold out ages ago. If we hadn't cleared the reserve stock, we wouldn't be here now. Another driver urged Wang Ping'an to speed up. If the convenience stores ran out of stock, they'd lose their transportation fees. By the time the second batch was loaded out, every supplied convenience store was packed with customers. Clearly, they were all there for the new snack. No one had ever seen anything like it. Speed it up. We don't have much time, Wang Ping'an muttered to himself. He immediately called Feng Yang. He needed a new kind of packaging, simple transparent plastic bags that could hold 10 identical pies. No problem. Feng Yang responded quickly. He'd been watching Wang Ping'an's factory all morning. The output was staggering. The profit margins in the food industry were just beginning to show. Within a day, news about Wang Ping'an food factory's supply spread like wildfire. Because they were self-sufficient and didn't need outside suppliers, plenty of businessmen wanted to deal with Wang Ping'an directly. He turned them all down. This wasn't the era for partnerships, but he was open to distribution deals. If they had channels, he'd give up 2% of the profit. 2% works. I'll take it. A big boss stepped forward. A name everyone in town knew. Well, if it isn't Boss Wu, what? Are you interested in my little product too? Wang Ping'an smirked. Wu Dao was also in the food processing business, but he made old-fashioned bread. A market so saturated it had no innovation. People only bought it out of habit. If Wang Ping'an's pies kept selling for a month, he could sweep every pastry factory in the city clean. That wasn't arrogance, just reality. What are you saying, Boss Wang? You have your technology. I have my channels. My exclusive supply chain isn't something just anyone has. Wu Dao said it with his chin up. No exaggeration. As an old-school company, he basically ruled the town. His reputation spoke for itself. I'll give you 2%. Come pick it up if you want. Wang Ping'an never turned anyone away, but he wouldn't grant exclusivity either. Those guys would just jack up their prices. No reason to let them make that much. Still, in the early stage, it didn't matter. Old Jiang, keep a record. How many carts, how much money goes in? Wang Ping'an shouted, then walked out with a smile. He left at the busiest moment not to avoid anything, but to head to the labor market and hire more people. The factory currently had 10 workers on the assembly line, nowhere near enough for production. 600 a month. I need 10 more workers. Before Wang Ping'an could finish his sentence, every waiting worker surged forward. They all had the same goal. Follow Wang Ping'an and get rich. Training was simple. Anyone with a brain could operate. There was no real skill involved. When the second batch of fruits and vegetables arrived, Wang Ping'an started a new round of recipe development. Having only one filling wouldn't work. What could replace it? Fruit, vegetables, chocolate. In 2005, chocolate was a rare treat. Real chocolate was hard to come by. Most was cocoa butter substitute. Show them how we process the egg yolks and chocolate. I want you to start separating egg whites at the front of the shop. Wang Ping'an had a clear purpose. He wanted everyone to see they were using real ingredients. There wouldn't be much waste since it was all baked goods. And you, pay attention. I want every scrap of this stuff too. Wang Ping'an called out to the nearby workers. Any fallen ingredients would be recycled. They worked until evening, dragging their exhausted bodies off the clock. Brother, this isn't sustainable. Relying on manual labor alone isn't fast enough, old Jiang said. At the current supply rate, human hands just couldn't keep up. It wasted time and didn't guarantee quality. After all, this was food going into people's mouths. They needed some standard of craftsmanship. I know, give me a week. I'll have the machines by then. Wang Ping'an had it all planned out. By that time, he'd be producing every variety. Everything played out exactly the way Wang Ping'an predicted. He cleared out his inventory in a single sweep, and demand slammed into him like a wave he couldn't outrun. His supply chain could take the first hit. After that, nothing. And now that word was spreading, there was no reason to keep playing nice. Especially not after he'd already pissed off one very prickly competitor. Call every supplier, prices go up 10 cents effective immediately. Feng Yang blinked. Day 2, and they were already raising prices. Something about it felt wrong. You think there's something shady going on? Wang Ping'an couldn't help but laugh. When Feng Yang finally gave the question a voice, all the pieces clicked into place. Let me walk you through it. Yesterday afternoon, they were already selling at $2 a unit. You have any idea how much their margins just jumped? For Wang Ping'an, The math was simple that if those guys kept undercutting each other, his product would be dead in the water, so the price hike started now. And he still needed a plan for the automated machines arriving in a week, plenty of brands to choose from. German, Japanese. If he wanted pure craftsmanship, Japanese was the safest bet, best performance for the price. How's our budget looking? It's tight. We haven't even finished tallying the first day's cash flow. Feng Yang looked embarrassed. He'd forgotten to balance the books. From now on, you stay on the ledger, every order logged, every batch loss documented. I need it crystal clear. Otherwise, I'm not the only one who takes the hit. Wang Ping'an offered a tired smile. He wasn't ripping into Feng Yang, he was just trying to talk it through. Before heading home, he slipped into an internet cafe. His stocks had already multiplied several times over. The gains were temporary, of course. Once the capital stabilized, the boom would fizzle. He had 3 months before everything leveled out. 3 months was his prep window. No second guessing. He bought more of the same stocks. Every dollar he had, he threw in. Hey, you again. Last time I watched you buy, you moved like some kind of wizard. Come on, give me a tip. Wang Ping'an gave the voice a flat look. Fine, one hint. 3 months from now, buy into a food company. If nothing goes sideways, it'll multiply a few times. He walked off without looking back. When he got home, Elizabeth hit him with the usual stare. Where were you all day? You've been acting really off. Her eyes tracked his every move. She never missed a thing. What could I be up to? I'm out there building a business, babe. With the way our expenses run, I have to make sure you and the kids have a good life. Wang Ping'an smiled and headed for the bedroom. He was running on fumes. Mom, Dad's lying again. The kid's small voice cut through the room. Their son was way too sharp. He could spot Wang Ping'an's nonsense from across the house. That's how you talk to your dad? Fine, next time, I'm buying toys for your sister, not you. Wang Ping'an sighed. They always said a son takes after his father, but this kid was immune to bribes and threats alike. Elizabeth didn't say much. She walked into the bedroom and shut the door. Our life is good enough. Wang Ping'an. Why do you have to change everything? What are you hiding from me? She'd asked this question so many times, and every time, Wang Ping'an gave the same answer. He was good at dodging, good at steering things somewhere else. Babe, I'm not hiding anything. I started a small factory. When the time's right, I'll tell you everything. Right now, he hadn't even gotten off the ground. This whole thing was barely more than a fling. If he couldn't win the product war coming his way, things would turn ugly fast. Fine. I won't push. But before you do anything, think about your son, think about your daughter. Don't be reckless. She lay down on the bed, defeated. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Wang Ping'an saw it. He'd thought that lifting the family's burden, improving their life, would make them happy, but that wasn't what they really needed. Trust me, Elizabeth, from now on, I won't let you cry again. He dragged his exhausted body into bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, he walked into the factory carrying a bag of steamed buns. The night shift had just rotated out, and the morning crew was already on the line. He eyed the inventory stacked in the back. It told him exactly how much they'd produced. For this team, it wasn't exactly rocket science. I need everyone to step it up. Whether this factory improves in a week comes down to you. Wang Ping'an went over the accounts Feng Yang had prepared. Yesterday's revenue, $68,000. Some losses still hadn't been recorded, but overall, not bad still. Relying purely on manual labor with zero automation was just sloppy. Before we open up, quick meeting. Wang Ping'an pulled a stack of cash from his bag. This was the part that mattered. Bonuses. I want everyone working hard, no slacking. Stick with me, and I promise you'll live well. He handed each worker a bill until every last one was gone. To him, it wasn't much. 20 workers. $2,000, but compared to their usual income and current prices, it was a lot. Alright. Let's get to work. Wang Ping'an clapped his hands and motioned for Feng Yang to open the gate. The moment the doors swung wide, dozens of people flooded the yard until it was packed solid. Drivers. Small-time bosses, all of them here to pick up orders. Rules have changed. Pay first, then load. 1 truckload, 1 payment. Feng Yang cleared his throat and let his voice ring out. He explained to the crowd that this was to ensure fair competition and no monopolies. That had been Wang Ping'an's goal from the start. If anyone cornered the supply, it would destroy his brand. Whether he'd even survive the first week was still an open question. Meanwhile, Yu was already gearing up for war. She ran a legitimate local food operation with the town's full backing. There was no reason she couldn't crush him. We can copy his little snack cakes, send someone to figure out exactly what he's doing. It didn't take long for Boss Wang's people to figure out the play. He had money, dozens of times, maybe even hundreds of times more than General Manager Liu could ever scrape together. Boss Wang said, "Competing with me, that's a death wish. Let's take a look at our sales numbers now." General Manager Liu's company was the Shun Group. Their biggest sellers were cheap snacks for kids, fruit leathers, hard candies, snack rolls, priced between 50 cents and $1.50. Most of them hovered right around $1. Our top items, snack rolls, fruit leathers, hard candies, are all tanking. We still have some buyers, but we've already lost 70% of our customer base. The assistant's voice dropped as he finished. He watched General Manager Liu's face, waiting for the reaction. What? General Manager Liu froze. This was only the second day, and he was already bleeding that much. Damn it. Is trying to bury me. A helpless sighed. No getting around it. He had to force Boss Wang's hand. Buy his products. Get at least 10 units of everything and start analyzing them. And contact the city's equipment factory. I want a fully automated production line, he ordered. General Manager Liu knew Boss Wang was relying on manual labor. That meant high volume and fast turnaround, something he couldn't match yet. But once Boss Wang hit supply constraints, his own speed would catch up. Then he'd slash costs and leave Boss Wang with no room to run. Tell all our vendors we're matching Boss Wang's products and delivery times, and we're cutting our margin by 20 cents. The second that word got out, vendors came running. They'd been waiting for the Shun Group to start shipping. In a cutthroat market like this, 20 cents was the difference between a quick payday and going under. As the pastries started moving, it wasn't just the local towns. Even vendors in the city began testing the waters. Feng Yang scratched his head, confused. Barely anyone's picking up today. We've been out of stock for 2 hours. Only a handful of familiar faces lingered at the gate. The foreman he knew gave a bitter smile. You haven't heard, everyone's gone over to the Shun Group. They've got pastries now, and they're undercutting the margin by 20 cents. Looks like Boss Wang's got a real fight on his hands. Boss Wang heard the news fast. Now that General Manager Liu had made his move, there was no point holding back. Old Jiang, tell the vendors we're cutting margins by 30 cents, he said. Then Boss Wang strode out. He wasn't just chasing distributors anymore, he was hitting the fruit market directly. He could offer fresh fruit at prices below the market average. Boss Wang, do you have any idea what this will do? Sure, our sourcing costs are low, but a move like this creates a vicious cycle in the whole market, the manager said, waving a dismissive hand. Then don't take the deal. Plenty of other dealers in this market would kill for a low-cost supplier like me. Boss Wang didn't waste time. He got the word out far and wide. Anyone who wanted fresh, high-quality fruit should come to his factory and haul it away. His goal was simple: liquidate the fruit as fast as possible. With that cash in hand, he could start dialing in the cocoa powder and egg-based recipes. Fruit was never the long play anyway. Once the Shun Group got their automated lines up and running, they'd close the gap. General Manager Liu showed up at Boss Wang's gate, dripping sarcasm. He made a point of hanging around whenever he could. "I hear you're practically shutting down over there, Boss Wang. I'll take every last piece of fruit off your hands. Hell, I'll even take your workers." "No need, but I can promise you one thing: you're going to lose big." Boss Wang put out another announcement. Starting immediately, his supply chain prices weren't getting any more discounts. They were going up by 50 cents. A 50-cent jump caught everyone off guard. Heads turned. People figured Boss Wang was getting greedy. Who price gouges like that? Sure enough, orders started flooding into the Shun Group instead. Nobody cared about fancy packaging. If the taste was the same, they'd take the cheaper option every time. While the Shun Group basked in their so-called victory, Boss Wang finished selling off every last piece of his fruit inventory. Feng Yang sounded deflated. "Bro, today's take was brutal. Barely over 40,000, that was just from the early sales." Ever since the Shun Group started shipping, Boss Wang's output had basically hit zero. "That's expected. How's the mixing going?" Boss Wang only cared about one thing: the 3 different pastry recipes. If the ingredients were right, he could destroy General Manager Liu within the next 5 days. "All mixed and ready. We can start production whenever," the foreman answered. This was different from the fruit operation. Since they were using temperature-controlled processes, workers couldn't stay on the line for long stretches. Instead of 2 full shifts, they split into 2 reduced shifts. Everyone's hours were cut in half. Set the price the way I told you, 50 cents higher, Boss Wang said. He didn't use traditional sales routes. He started with a dozen small shops he'd rented out. Only after that did the truck drivers waiting at his gate get their first real shipment. These pastries were a game changer. They practically slapped General Manager Liu right across the face. "What the hell is this? Who does he think he is?" General Manager Liu snarled, ripping open the package and snapping a pastry in half. He stared at the filling, cocoa. Egg-based filling. Everything he hadn't planned for, all packed into one product. "Wang, you've lost your damn mind, haven't you? There was no ready-made recipe for any of this. Even if General Manager Liu tried analyzing it now, he wouldn't make it in time. His only move left was a price battle." Almost instantly, individual fruit pastries dropped to 50 cents each. That rock-bottom price did pull in customers. But Boss Wang's cocoa and egg-based pastries flew off the shelves in a single night. His income dwarfed an entire day's worth of his old sales figures. Feng Yang tallied up the numbers: shipments and income both. Damn. Pulling that all-nighter actually paid off. Total, $100,500. A week ago, he never would have believed it. $100,000 in a day, that only happened in dreams. And that's just the start. In a few days, I'll show you exactly how the Shun Group dies, Boss Wang said with total certainty. But he didn't share the rest with his workers. These pastries weren't a long-term play. He was just laying the groundwork for the production line that would come online in 7 days. He'd keep selling, sure, but sooner or later, the novelty would wear off, and when that happened, he'd have his next move ready. "Did you hear? Some survey crew rolled into town. They're from the southern high-tech zone, scouting factory space. Looks like no idea what they're planning to invest in." A handful of truck drivers were shooting the breeze while waiting for their loads, and the conversation drifted straight into Chen Cheng's ears. "Where are they staying?" he asked, curiosity flaring. He wanted to get eyes on these people because something felt off. Survey teams from the south didn't just show up unannounced. Not like this. Odds were, This was a marketing play for Sugo's next move. The word marketing still sounded foreign to most people back then, but that didn't mean they didn't understand the game. The system had been running smoothly overseas for years, and since the mid-90s, major foreign brands had been flooding the domestic market. Station Hotel, the one Hongbing runs. Now that he had a location, Chen Cheng didn't waste a second. He hauled Feng Yilu straight to a car rental company. But first, he bought Feng Yilu a decent suit, and sure enough, with those broad shoulders and solid frame, Feng Yilu actually looked the part in a blazer. Big Feng, you don't need to say much later. Just call me Mr. Charles. After giving him the rundown, Chen Cheng walked into the rental office and leased a Porsche. The fee wasn't cheap, but to him, it was pocket change. Bro, I've never even touched a car like this, Feng Yilu admitted. His driving experience topped out at a Xia Li, which, back then, already counted as a luxury ride for the rich. Wipe that hungry look off your face, and don't say a damn word you shouldn't. When the Porsche glided into the hotel entrance, every security guard stopped to stare. Nobody in this little town had ever seen anyone roll up in a car like that. That's the survey team. Check the briefcases, Feng Yilu said, sharp-eyed. He'd spotted a cluster of men stepping out of the hotel right at that moment. At Chen Cheng's nudge, he punched the gas and cut the car directly in front of them, blocking their path. Hello, I'm Charles. I'm looking to make some friends. The guy leading the group looked early 30s. He gave the Porsche a slow nod. Zhu Kaiyang, nice to meet you. That name wasn't unfamiliar to Chen Cheng. He'd called it. Among Sugo's original founders, only one general manager had stuck with M&A through the years. Zhu Kaiyang, Mr. Jude, I just got back from overseas, and I know a fair amount about modern marketing. Interested in working together? The implication was obvious. The colleagues around them immediately melted away, leaving Zhu Kaiyang standing alone in front of Chen Cheng. I'm pretty confident in my current position. I don't see a reason to jump ship. Zhu Kaiyang offered a faint smile and declined. He'd poured himself into the Sugo brand, and they were at the final stage of market research. He had to see it through. A single general's victory costs 10,000 bones. Inside Sugo, you're not sitting that pretty, or they wouldn't have shipped you down south for this survey. Chen Cheng cut straight to the point. He told Zhu Kaiyang that grinding under a boss who didn't value him was a waste. Better to step out and build something real. After all, Emma never really cared about you. If the earlier words hadn't landed, that one hit the mark. Emma had founded Sugo, and by the end of the month, they'd be launching their rural commerce model. The key man driving all of it was Zhu Kaiyang. Whether Chen Cheng could kill their plans in this area depended entirely on Zhu Kaiyang's next move. That's a dangerous thing to say. I don't think we're that familiar, Zhu Kaiyang said, waving a dismissive hand. But Chen Cheng simply handed him a business card and walked off without looking back. Mr. Charles, the old man says we need to head back. There's a $1 billion deal that needs your personal review. Feng Yilu's perfectly timed add-on made Zhu Kaiyang's jaw drop, who tossed around $1 billion deals that casually these days, but the Porsche in front of him was real. Not just anybody could afford wheels like that. Keep tabs on this guy's movements. Make sure he stays in town, Chen Cheng said, voice tight. Bro, I don't get it. Why do we need this guy? He seems pretty ordinary, Feng Yilu muttered, baffled. Zhu Kaiyang looked no different from the average person. Chen Cheng laughed dismissively. If his read was right, Zhu Kaiyang was about to spiral. Sometimes, the war inside a man's head did more damage than 10,000 words out of someone else's mouth. Because everything he just spilled were insider secrets, things Zhu Kaiyang wouldn't reveal until his memoirs, years after stepping down from success. So the credibility was solid. After testing the waters, Chen Cheng could already see the cracks spreading. Who the hell is this Charles? How does he know so much? Zhu Kaiyang wondered. Truth was, ever since he'd been transferred south, Emetame had been gunning for him. Using the rental as cover, Chen Cheng laid out his next move. Same strategy, but this time he wasn't meeting a businessman that he was going to see Pang Duan, the man running the township market supply chain. Hello, who are you looking for? Don't you recognize me? Tell your boss Pang Duan to come out and greet Mr. Charles. As those words left his mouth, Feng Yilu's heart hammered. When had he ever talked this bold? Don't give the kid a hard time, just have Mr. Pang step out. Let's talk. Chen Cheng smiled and straightened his collar. Within moments, Pang Duan came barreling out, sprinting full speed through the gate. The Porsche in the driveway was real, and the two sharply dressed young men inside were clearly not ordinary. May I ask? Let me introduce myself. I'm Charles. Here's my card. The card was stamped with gold embossed letters spelling Charles, along with an overseas address. What brings Mr. Charles here? Please, this way. Pang Duan respectfully opened the car door and helped Chen Cheng out. What kind of luck was this? A big money player showing up. He could feel it in his bones. He was about to land a fortune. I'll be brief. My father asked me to pass along a message. The current business model needs collaboration, and I happen to have a deal that requires your support, Mr. Pang. Chen Cheng raised an eyebrow, and Pang Duan caught the gesture immediately. Name it. If there's anything I, Pang Duan, can do, I'll give it everything I've got. On Boss Wang's invitation, Wang Ping'an walked straight into the office. They rolled out the VIP treatment, top-shelf premium tea on a silver tray. One sip, and Wang Ping'an's brow furrowed. What's wrong, Mr. Wang? Not to your liking? Tea isn't my thing, but I know stale when I taste it overseas. I drink artisan coffee. Since I've been back, I've had my share of tea. He set the cup down with a sharp clack. The dismissal landed hard. Feng Yang watched from the side, amazed at how perfectly Wang Ping'an could fake it. My fault. The tea's off. Sweat beaded on Boss Wang's forehead. He hadn't expected the guy's palate to be this picky. He'd kept that tea for himself. Fine. He'd switched to green tea, not as pricey as the premium stuff, but fresh, night and day difference. I know what you're thinking. Fresh tea tastes better cheaper, but it'll do. It'll do? Boss Wang's mind spun. He couldn't believe the nerve. Let's talk business. Wang Ping'an opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers, fresh from the copy shop market analysis and distribution data he'd put together. This is what you want me to do? Boss Wang hesitated. The food industry wasn't cutthroat yet, but betting everything on an unproven novelty was risky. Getting him to distribute this would be walking into a fire. Mr. Wang, this isn't what I expected. I've seen these little snacks before. They don't sell well. He kept it vague. No point burning bridges. Maybe so, but I'm telling you, you won't get your hands on this anywhere else. Wang Ping'an pulled a chocolate pastry from his pocket and held it up. Feng Yang finally understood why Wang Ping'an hadn't let him taste it earlier, all for this moment. I've seen plenty of fruit pastries on the market lately. Tried one. It was fine, nothing special. Boss Wang mentioned several companies were already pushing fruit pastries through nearby towns. Taste first, then judge. I've got time. At Wang Ping'an's nod, Boss Wang reluctantly tore the wrapper open. He didn't say it, but inside he was thinking, it's just a pastry. What's the big deal? The second the filling hit his tongue, his expression shifted completely. This is chocolate. He froze. How did they pull that off? Yeah, chocolate. So what do you think? Does this have more market potential than fruit pastries? Wang Ping'an asked it casually. The answer was already written all over Boss Wang's face. It's a total knockout. How many can you supply? No one's launched this yet, right? He wasn't worried about the market. He was worried someone would beat him to it. Losing that edge would cost way more than a few bucks. No one's repping it yet. I've got my eye on you, you know what that means. Wang Ping'an's gaze was clear, no hidden agenda. Mr. Wang, you're right. I'm glad to call you a friend today. Boss Wang grabbed his hand, grateful. This was his lucky break. Alright, how many do you want? I'll give you the numbers and you know the arrangement with the money. Wang Ping'an explained he only took a cut, but the chocolate pastry price would not be discounted, same for all future products. No problem, you call the shots. They settled on $1.50 per piece, steep for the time, practically a luxury snack given the pastry's size. I want 10,000. Boss Wang's distribution network was wide. 10,000 was barely scratching the surface. He'd push into surrounding towns and cities too, as long as Mr. Wang could keep supplying. Don't worry about supply. I've got a plan, but I do need your help with something. Wang Ping'an smiled. To mass produce, he needed machines. His current setup was too small for volume and the German engineer wouldn't arrive until next week, so, I'll take care of it. Whatever machine you need, I'll get it. And I won't breathe a word. Before Wang Ping'an could finish, Boss Wang asked for the factory address and promised to deliver the machines ASAP, free of charge. He'd take them back once the engineer arrived. Thanks, Boss Wang. We're going to be great friends, don't you think? Wang Ping'an stood and handed over a business card. He glanced at Feng Yang, who already knew the next move. Playing backup was second nature by now. Mr. Wang, your father wants you to pick him up at the airport. It's almost time. What? Your father's coming? I haven't prepared anything. The implication landed hard. Boss Wang looked flustered. Don't worry. My old man doesn't like crowds. He just wants tea and conversation. I'll introduce you when I get the chance. Wang Ping'an patted Boss Wang's shoulder. Do right by me, and there'll be plenty more perks. Then he turned and headed out with Feng Yang without looking back. Boss Wang saw them into the car before slowly walking back into the office. Bro, where to now? We rented this car, we can't just drive around for nothing, right? Feng Yang grinned. He wanted to cruise. The car was flashy. Nobody in their village, or even the whole damn city, had a ride like this. Return it. You think rental fees are free? Kui Xiaoqi was fast. Mimicking wasn't hard when you had your own production line and the edge in speed. The other guy was barely competition. He could crush Li Changyu without even trying. Let's call it a day. Nothing left for us here. Li Changyu smiled, dropped Feng Mingdong off at home, and returned the car himself. Since he was already in the city, he figured he might as well pick something up for the kids. It's not even Christmas yet. How are there already Barbie dolls? He stared at the storefront display, curiosity pulling him inside. He couldn't remember exactly when Barbie had cracked the domestic market, but back in the day, only the rich or the well-connected had been able to get their hands on one. Sir, what kind of doll are you looking for? Ours are all imported. Kids love them. The saleswoman's pitch was flawless. With a foreign brand behind her, she acted like she owned the place. Just looking. I need to find the right one for my kid. Li Changyu gave a small nod and walked deeper into the store. The sheer variety stunned him, shelves crammed with glitter and lace. Prices hit triple digits, yet plenty of people were buying anyway. The children's market really prints money, doesn't it? He couldn't help marveling. He'd never even considered that angle before. The children's market has always been profitable. Some people are just too cheap to pay up. The saleswoman's tone turned sour fast. This odd customer had been circling for ages. If he wasn't going to buy, he was wasting her time. Li Changyu nodded to himself, then let his gaze land on a doll nearly a meter tall, big, but perfect. His daughter would lose her mind. He'd never bought her anything like this before. Funny how life works, sir. That's our limited edition. If you're not buying, please don't touch. She slapped his hand away without a second thought. She didn't want this poser messing with her merchandise. Who said I wasn't buying? Your attitude is terrible. Lee Chang-yu shot her a look of disgust and turned toward the exit. People were starting to stare. This was an upscale store, full of the wealthy. I in their eyes. He looked like a man who couldn't afford a toy. Get out. If you're broke, try the street market. This place isn't for everyone. That last jab landed. He hadn't wanted to make a scene, but now he was fully committed. How much for the doll? Stop causing trouble. One more word and I'm calling security. Her voice carried across the store. Everyone stopped to watch. I asked you a question. How much for the doll? Lee Chang-yu repeated himself, irritation bleeding into his voice. He didn't have all day for a sales clerk with an attitude. If you can't afford it, don't bother. I'm not wasting my breath. Before she could finish, a wealthy woman holding a child stepped closer, clearly aiming to humiliate him. She shot him a condescending look. Maybe skip the doll, know your place. Fine, wrap up. Everyone meet a Barbie in this store. I'll take all of them. Lee Chang-yu strode to the counter and pulled out his bank card. The saleswoman froze. She had no idea what to do. What's the problem? You sell these, don't you? Or are you refusing my money now? He let out a cold laugh. He had the upper hand, and he knew it. We'll sell, of course we'll sell. The clerks scrambled, packaging the 5 Barbie dolls into elegant gift boxes. That'll be 3,000, sir, please pay here. The cashier's voice turned sweet as honey. She hadn't expected him to actually follow through. And here's our membership card reserved for our most valued guests. She handed him a gold card with a practiced smile. Oh. Lee Chang-yu took it without looking, then let it drop to the floor. He wasn't coming back here, and he couldn't care less about their so-called gold card. It was worthless to him. The saleswoman panicked. She snatched up the card, her face burning red, and rushed over, pleading with him to take it back. No need. We're not the same kind of people. I can't afford it, remember? His voice carried through the store. The rich woman who'd mocked him earlier slunk away without a word. What's all this noise out here? The store manager stepped out of his office. He'd never heard a dispute in his shop before. It's nothing. I just spoke out of turn and said the gentleman couldn't afford. One of the clerks tried to make excuses, but the manager brushed past her. Ridiculous. Don't embarrass me like this. He scolded the saleswoman sharply, then walked over to Lee Chang-yu with genuine respect in his posture. Sir, I'm the manager. I sincerely apologize for the incident. He bowed deeply in front of everyone. It was the highest form of courtesy. A businessman who could do that was a true master of people. Lee Chang-yu appreciated the gesture. I'm fine, but this store is beneath your talents. He raised an eyebrow and gestured for the manager to box up his purchases. Carrying them by hand was going to be a pain. Without a word, the manager knelt down and carefully bound the gift boxes together with packing tape. All packed. Is there anything else I can do for you? Yes, this store is nothing special. It's a waste of a prime location. If you're interested, come work for me. Lee Chang-yu pulled out his business card. Not the one with Jerry's name on it. This one was his own. A guy in foreign trade would understand how the game worked, so he figured he might as well be genuine. Lee Chang-yu, food factory owner? The manager hesitated for a beat, then pocketed the card with reverence. Mr. Lee, I beg you to take the card back. From now on, whatever toys your child wants, come straight to me. No charge. The entire store buzzed at the promise. No one could believe the manager was showing that much respect to a customer dressed like he'd wandered in off the street. Thanks, man. Wang Ping'an waved casually and stepped out of the shop. He flagged a taxi, dropped into the back seat, and rattled off his home address. Hauling all those gift boxes up the stairs was a workout, but for his little girl, it was worth every step. "Dad's late again, so annoying." Yu pouted, her petulant tone a tiny echo of her mother's. "Hey, you, why you is that how you talk to your dad? He went out to buy you a present." Wang Ping'an cleared his throat and pretended to be offended. Sure enough, the little girl came running. The second she spotted the Barbie doll, she bounced up and down like her shoes had springs. "You're the best, Dad, and so handsome. Where'd that come from? Did you coach her, honey?" Wang Ping'an grinned and shot a glance at his wife. Her cheeks flushed pink, and it took her a second to stammer out a flustered no. Their son stood off to the side, looking less than thrilled at a forgotten audience of wonder. Wang Ping'an mentally kicked himself for not thinking ahead. "And you don't need toys like that. You're going to be just like your dad." He pulled the boy into a hug, then revealed the fried chicken he'd been hiding inside his jacket. "Whoa, fried chicken." His son lunged for it. Wang Ping'an wasn't surprised. Kids and fried food, pure instinct. "You're going to spoil them rotten, you know that?" His wife scolded him, but a smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Sure, Wang Ping'an's spending had gotten a little wild lately, but the man took care of his family. That mattered. "Honey, soon you'll be living like this, too." He said it over dinner, and he meant every word. "Yeah, right that I don't play with toys." The next morning, Wang Ping'an hopped on his bicycle and pedaled toward the food factory. A crowd of truck drivers was already waiting at the gate. If he hadn't set strict hours, they'd have shown up in the middle of the night. "Morning, Boss Wang, we've been waiting forever. When do we start loading?" The foremen were losing patience. Time was money. The sooner those goods rolled out, the sooner they'd get paid. "You can load up now, head inside." Wang Ping'an pushed open the gate with a smile. He hadn't expected them to crank out over 10,000 units overnight. "I bunked at the factory last night. Workers came to my house and told me the machines from the distributor had arrived, so I let them get to work." The factory manager offered a sheepish grin. He didn't think it was a big deal. If anything, he felt like he could have done more. "You're incredible, you're my lucky charm." Wang Ping'an almost planted a kiss on the man's cheek. With momentum like this, the distributor was a lock. Securing a decision maker that big meant his future was set. Exactly as predicted, the chocolate egg pies tore through town. Through the distributor's channels, they even pushed into the city. Newspapers flooded their pages with stories about the miracle at Wang Ping'an's food factory. Some called it the most stunning business success story since the turn of the millennium. "Our entire inventory is wiped out. It's like people were just waiting to pounce. Look, those drivers are already back after their deliveries." Sure enough, several men were sprawled out at the factory gate. Let me tell you, the second those things hit the shelves, kids snatched them up like crazy. $1.50 a pop. Parents handed over $5 a piece and didn't even blink. The foreman spoke with open envy, his voice thick with admiration for Wang Ping'an's instincts. Everything unfolded the way Wang Ping'an expected. By mid-morning, every last unit was gone. 53,000 in total. He'd pulled in $79,500. After deducting the driver's commissions, his net profit landed at a staggering $79,300. Appreciate everyone's patience. Here's a little something to make up for the wait. Wang Ping'an smiled and handed out red envelopes, each stuffed with $300 cash. It wasn't a fortune, but to those foremen, it was a damn decent bonus. By afternoon, truck drivers from all over the city were crowding the gates, desperate to get their hands on his product. But they weren't his priority anymore. With distribution channels to manage, he had a lot of people counting on him now. Who the hell is this Wang Ping'an? He's been on a rampage lately. At a town tea house, a few middle-aged men in expensive clothes gathered around a table. They called these get-togethers catching up, but really they just killed time with gossip. He runs the Wang Ping'an food factory. He shoved those pies onto the market, and I'll admit the guy has real strategic vision. A local businessman let out a cold laugh. If he hadn't been slow to react, none of this would be happening. Old man, you've got the production lines. Crush him, drive him into bankruptcy. The speaker was another rival, head of the town's subsidiary food company. He and the other two had climbed the ranks together. Each had carved out a name in their own field. Now they sat comfortably in the upper class. Yeah, what are you waiting for? Take him out while you've got the chance. We'll help you block every one of his distribution channels. The third rival's father-in-law headed the city's Food Inspection Association. That gave him enough pull to open a food safety investigation and leak it straight to the media. With backing like that, the first businessman had climbed the ladder without breaking a sweat. But now his monopoly was about to be ripped away by some newcomer. How the hell could he just let that slide? I just hadn't planned that far ahead. I'll step things up. He pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. The second rival snatched it, took a long, greedy drag, and savored the rich tobacco. Listen up. We make life hell for this Wang guy. Get your father-in-law to schedule repeated inspections. I don't care how many times it takes. Hit him until he cracks. The second rival's plan was solid. Even if Wang Ping'an's products were spotless, once the papers got the story, they could spin it any way they wanted. The public never thought twice, especially about food. The last thing they wanted was to worry about what they were putting in their mouths. Fine. I'll burn money right alongside him. We'll see who breaks first. The first businessman had a few $1 million stashed away. Going head-to-head with him was suicide. That very afternoon, he launched an identical chocolate egg pie, undercutting the price. Each unit cost him just $1 to produce. A full 50 cents less than what it cost Wang Ping'an to make. 1.50 cents here and there added up fast. If we're going to play, let's play big. I'm not interested in small-time games. The price drop was so sudden it sent every foreman in the city scrambling straight to Xiaoqi, and he was ready to drive sales even further. He switched up the offer. Buy 2 chocolate pies, get a fruit pie free. Same deal on bulk orders, no limit. The news burned through the city like a wildfire. His supply was deep, and no matter how fast Chen Cheng moved, he couldn't close the gap. On top of that, the Food Inspection Association had already received complaints. Not 1 or 2. A pile of them. Bro, Fengyuan Food Factory just cut us off again. How is this guy so shameless? Feng Elio was furious. Aside from their base sales channels, nearly every foreman had walked away by noon. Tell our sales channels to drop the unit price to 80 cents to no free pies, but the bigger the order, the bigger the discount. Chen Cheng just needed to clear out inventory. As long as every sale stayed above cost, it was profit. At least that could stop the bleeding. The situation shifted fast, but the money coming in was pathetic. All afternoon, they scraped together barely 10,000 orders, netting just over $8,000. Don't worry about this. Someone can help us flip the whole thing around. Xiaoqi isn't going to keep getting away with it, Chen Cheng said, his confidence rock solid. Before Feng Elio could answer, a group in crisp uniforms walked through the door. They wore the association's armbands. We're from the City Food Inspection Association. We've received complaints that your products have safety issues, said the man in charge, a guy with a tight crew cut. He followed protocol, showed his credentials, and nodded for Chen Cheng to cooperate. No problem. Go ahead. I know my factory better than anyone. Chen Cheng didn't let them roam freely. Of course. He assigned his own workers to accompany them every single step. Once mud gets thrown at you, it sticks. All right, everyone, start collecting evidence. Everything was by the book. For half an hour, the crew-cut inspector covered every inch: the food itself, the environment, the machinery, the entire chain. You'll hear from us. Until then, production is suspended. They didn't stick around. The ultimatum landed hard, and the workers went pale. Boss, are we really shutting down? Anxiety kicked in, and the fear of losing their jobs was all over their faces. No, this is just temporary. Chen Cheng smiled to reassure them that he promised no one would lose a paycheck. He'd keep wages rolling, no shortcuts. But the fallout didn't fade. IT dragged. For 2 straight days, surprise inspections hit the factory like clockwork. As soon as one team walked out, another walked in. Keep it up. It doesn't matter how long it takes, we stall him. He can slash prices all he wants, but now he can't sell a thing. We've got him by the throat. Kui Xiaoqi raised his glass to Mo Yufa. You really came through for me this time. It's no big deal. A nobody like him who doesn't know his place. We'll crush him sooner or later. Walls have ears, and that same night, Tang Xing burst into the factory in a panic. When he saw Chen Cheng sitting there smoking like nothing was wrong, he wanted to slap the cigarette right out of his mouth. How can you just sit there so calm? I'm starting to think we'll never see a penny of our investment. What's wrong? You found something? Chen Cheng smiled and motioned for him to sit, pouring a cup of tea. Damn right I did. The one screwing you over is Chen Fengming. He's the head of the Inspection Association, and he's Mo Yufa's father-in-law. Tang Xing said his own brother-in-law had tipped him off. The intel was solid. Who's Mo Yufa? I've never even heard of him. Chen Cheng looked genuinely surprised. He'd thought it was just him and Kui Xiaoqi butting heads. Now it looked like a whole gang was piling on. Mo Yufa and Huang Tenghui are sworn brothers with Kui Xiaoqi. Huang Tenghui runs the Township Deputy Food Supply Company. That is not a man you want as an enemy. Tang Xing knew every connection in this network and exactly how these people operated. Their strategy was simple: cut Chen Cheng off at every turn. Even if they dangled a chance in front of the distributors, nobody would be stupid enough to defy them. In that case, I've got it figured out, thanks, President Tang. Chen Cheng waved him off with that same smile and made no other move. Watching that, Tang Xing stormed out of the factory, convinced Chen Cheng had completely lost it, but he hadn't. Not even close. Chen Cheng had a full plan mapped out in his head, and it was going to need serious money if the funds came through. He could pull through. So it was time to go recruit someone. Big Feng, stop sleeping. We're heading to the Hongbing Hotel. For Zhu Kaiyang, the last few days had felt like years. After a lot of thinking, he'd finally submitted his resignation. Now he was just waiting for Chen Cheng to show up and ask for his help. He couldn't bring himself to make the call first. Truth was, part of him still wanted to check on the factory. But after reading the newspaper reports, he saw exactly what Chen Cheng really was. A returnee, a rich second-generation heir. All lies sure, the guy had some brains, but he was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. How could he ever fight back? Zhu Kaiyang felt like an idiot for swallowing that nonsense. You're here. Yeah. I'm offering you the position of operations manager. Chen Cheng said the salary would be triple what Zhu Kaiyang earned at Sugua, plus a 5% equity stake. Salary? You've got the nerve to mention salary. I'd like to strangle you right now. Exactly, Mr. Zhu, our boss specifically asked us to come get you. Before Feng Elio could finish, both Chen Cheng and Zhu Kaiyang shouted in unison, "Shut up." That left Big Feng totally bewildered, not understanding what he'd done wrong. No way. I'm not betting my future on you. Zhu Kaiyang pulled out his phone, ready to call Boss Ma and beg for his old job back. I'm not stopping you, but before you dial, think it over. What I'm offering now might be decent, but soon it'll double. Boss Ma will never promise you that. Chen Cheng released his arm and gestured toward the phone. The silence that followed was the worst part. The call didn't go through. Boss Ma had blocked him, And every other employee from the company had cut ties too. Life could be that cruel. Ju Kai-young had nowhere left to turn. Fine. I'll come take a look. If it doesn't work, I'm out. He grabbed his suitcase and headed for the door, then stopped. No Porsche. Where's your car? Ju Kai-young's voice carried a sharp edge of suspicion. The old man took it. Feng Yilu jumped in quickly, but Chen Cheng punched him in the arm. Some people really needed to learn to keep their mouths shut. So it's all fake too? Ju Kai-young snorted. Old Charlie sat outside. Good enough, he figured. That's not ours, this is. Chen Cheng gave a resigned smile and balanced Ju Kai-young's suitcase on the back of a bicycle, then started pushing it toward the factory. Ju Kai-young stared at that bicycle, frustration burning so hard his eyes stung. What the hell had he gotten himself into? The factory itself, though not bad, spacious. Solid machinery, everything in working order. So why aren't you running? Ju Kai-young asked, genuinely puzzled. This is prime production time. You'll need stock when distributors show up. Hit a snag. Long story. Let me show you where you'll sleep. Chen Cheng led him to a clean room. Feng Yilu usually crashed there, but he'd tidied it up for the newcomer. Fine. I've got a place to sleep, Ju Kai-young said. But level with me. What's the real problem? He could guess. The guy was stuck at a bottleneck. Still, Chen Cheng knew powerful people. People with real influence usually found a way out. We can't start production yet. Our competitor has us under sanction. We have to wait it out, then hit back, slash prices until we survive and let their factory fold. Chen Cheng laid it out. They needed cash, plain and simple. Money was the only thing that could keep them afloat. After this pivot, he wasn't going to settle. The food industry was a goldmine, and he meant to keep digging. Pretty dream, but reality bites. Where exactly is that cash coming from? And even if you had the money, you've got more than one enemy gunning for you. I think I should just leave. Ju Kai-young picked up his suitcase and made a show of walking out, then he stopped and held out his hand. Fair money. I've been with you this whole time, and I'm flat broke. No kidding. Chen Cheng had noticed it back at the hotel. Ju Kai-young's instant noodles had been traded for stale buns that looked days old. Stay. Chen Cheng's smile was wry. If I eat, you eat. I'll deliver on everything I promised. Don't believe me? Let's make a bet. Ju Kai-young slowly set down his suitcase and lit a cigarette. They stared each other down. Chen Cheng broke the silence first. 20 days. If I haven't delivered what I promised you by then, this factory is yours. That's not a bad deal. If I do deliver, you stay and run operations for me. Chen Cheng meant every word. He couldn't make this work without someone like Ju Kai-young, so he'd stake everything to keep him here. Even if nothing else panned out, the factory offered room and board free. He wouldn't find a better deal anywhere. Fine. Ju Kai-young licked his dry, cracked lips. It was the first time he'd ever backed down. Then they started planning the money. Ju Kai-young expected Chen Cheng to go the usual route, slashing profit margins, but no, the guy had something completely different in mind. I'm using the current situation. The government just rolled out a new policy. Cross-border trade subsidies are coming. That means plenty of angel investors. Chen Cheng explained that once the program launched, he could leverage his overseas background to lock everything in. So you want them to invest in you. What do they get in return? Ju Kai-young had heard of angel investors. He just never thought it would be this casual. Simple. After I take down Fengyuan Food Factory, I'll expand this place, pay them back with interest. They'll be happy. Chen Cheng was gambling that he could turn things around in 20 days. It would take a massive cash flow. Ju Kai-young nodded slowly. Worth a shot. Alright. I'm going to sleep. You've got a plan, go execute it. He shoved Chen Cheng and Feng Yilu out the door and locked it. Bro, he took my room. Where am I supposed to sleep now? Feng Yilu let out a helpless sigh. Why did everyone pick on him? Plenty of empty rooms in the factory. Pick one. You'll be fine. Chen Cheng patted his shoulder. He needed to figure out how to turn things around. Yes, it turned out, the inspection board didn't hold them down for long. Chen Cheng showed up every single day, harassing them until the pressure got too much. The factory workers showed up too, all waiting to get back to work and earn a paycheck. Alright, your factory can reopen. No food safety issues. Those words finally came on the 5th day for Chen Cheng. Those 5 days felt like 5 years. He felt like he'd aged a decade. He'd never been on this end of a shutdown before. Move. We're executing Plan A starting now. Plan A, as he and Zhu Kaiyang had laid out, was a price war. Drop the price to 50 cents, sell in volume, and open every distribution channel they could. They even got a newspaper to run a feature story, proof that their food had passed inspection and was safe. This kind of publicity puts people at ease. At least our factory can stand up to scrutiny. Not everyone can say the same. He was right. Once the article hit, customers flooded back to Chen Cheng's factory. At 50 cents a unit, they weren't turning anyone away. Almost anyone could get that price. Tell them that starting tomorrow, anything over 1,000 units gets this price. Everyone else pays 60 cents. The price hike could have caused a stir, but it was still way cheaper than what Kui Xiaoqi was charging, so nobody complained. Is Chen Cheng out of his mind? He barely got back on his feet and is already pulling this kind of stunt. Kui Xiaoqi didn't believe it until she drove to the factory herself. What she saw was terrifying. A sea of people. Today's a beautiful comeback. It's just a fraction of what we used to do, but this is only our first day. We've got to keep pushing. Surviving against all odds was never easy for Wang Ping'an, but managing the biggest production run this factory had ever seen while every rival tried to shut him down, that took sweat. It took sacrifice. Feng Yang didn't even need to ask. Wang Ping'an had already planned to get him new clothes. Boss, can I get an advance on my salary? Clothes make the man, right? I can't pull off the next phase looking like this. 2,000 per person. Go buy something decent. Wang Ping'an waved a hand, a smile tugging at his lips. He said he had to step out. Now, who's going to watch the factory? Feng Yang blocked his path, no intention of staying behind to train the new hires. I'm going home to be with my wife. You guys can shop after work. Wang Ping'an laughed, hopped on his bike, and pedaled toward the gate. The flood of workers spilling out the door caught him off guard. Wang Ping'an spotted Dongmi standing with his back to him, shoulders stiff. Definitely here to snoop. He probably never expected Wang Ping'an to bounce back so fast. Take care of yourself. Dongmi's reply was ice cold. He headed for his car, wishing he didn't have to acknowledge Wang Ping'an at all. Once home, Wang Ping'an scooped up both kids and carried them into their room. Kids, you, be good while we're gone, okay? Seeing him act so strangely, Yu tilted her head. Daddy, where are you going? I'm taking Mommy out to shop for you too, so stay here and behave. He patted his son's shoulder. You're the big brother, watch your sister. This was the rare day he'd planned. No way he was letting anyone crash their couple time, even if that anyone was his own kids. You're really heartless, leaving the kids alone like this. Zhong Ma gave him a helpless look. Her husband was getting way too full of himself lately. She'd never seen him act like this. Ever since that month started, he'd become someone she barely recognized. I'm curious, why have you changed so much? It feels unreal. like you're a completely different person. The old Wang Ping'an would have screamed at her or hit her. 0 sense of responsibility. If it weren't for the kids, she would have. But fate had a twisted sense of humor. It had given her back the man she'd lost. Let's go find what we used to have. Hop on, babe. Wang Ping'an lowered the bike seat with a little flourish and gestured for her to sit. TCH. It's not exactly a luxury ride. You're hopeless. Her cheeks flushed, but she climbed on anyway. Some women would rather cry in a BMW than smile on a bike, but what's meant for us will come. He hummed a little tune and pedaled toward the shopping district. Zhongma's eyes went wide when they stopped. Why are we here? She figured it out fast. He wanted to buy her clothes. What, you don't like it? I see women going to places like this all the time. Give it a try. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. Let's not. The clothes here are crazy expensive. We can check out the market. Their life had improved, but she wasn't as bold as Wang Ping'an. Spending that much on clothes still felt like a crime. Just come inside. We'll talk. He didn't argue. He took her hand and walked her straight into the store. Can I help you find something? These are the latest styles. The sales assistant greeted them warmly, but the store manager's face was stone cold. She'd heard every word of their conversation outside. These two clearly didn't belong here. Don't let them try anything on. They can't afford to replace it if something gets ruined. The assistants nodded and obeyed. Pick whatever you like. My wife's too shy, and I'm terrible at guessing her taste. Wang Ping'an shrugged. It was true, but he knew how to watch. He'd already noticed which dress she'd lingered on the longest. That one. Try it on. He reached for a spotted dress on the rack, but an assistant blocked his hand. Sir, I'm sorry. We don't allow try-ons in this store. Wang Ping'an frowned. What were the fitting rooms for? Decoration. Before he could argue, a heavy-set middle-aged woman waddled out of the dressing room, wearing the exact same outfit displayed in the window. Then why can she try it on and we can't? He pointed at the woman preening in front of the mirror. Isn't it obvious? You're broke. You think just anyone can afford to shop here? The woman shot him a contemptuous look, as if she couldn't believe people like this still existed in the 21st century. The manager and assistants watched with the same smug expression. They didn't stop her, they just stood there, waiting for a show. You're just jealous. You know what I do? I'm the one who puts people like you in their place. All flash, no substance. Wang Ping'an's voice was steady, but his eyes were sparks. The woman elbowed Zhongma hard as she walked past, then headed for the door. Wang Ping'an's temper snapped. He grabbed her sleeve. Where's your decency? Do you have no shame? The woman tried to slap him. He caught her wrist. Apologize to my wife. Or you're not leaving. His voice was flat, cold. He didn't hit women, but he wasn't about to let Zhongma take this. The woman ignored him and yanked her arm away. Wang Ping'an's grip tightened, the fabric of her dress ripped. That's a limited edition. Do you know how much that costs? Enough to buy your whole family's lives. Before she could finish, a slap cracked across her cheek, out of nowhere. The slap came from Zhongyi. She yanked her hand back, trembling, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. You hit me? The heavy-set woman shoved Chen Cheng aside and slammed her purse onto the counter. Let me make this very clear. If you don't fix this, I'm not letting it go. That dress costs 3,000 yuan. Pay up, or I'll have you locked up. Her smug, bullying tone made Chen Cheng's blood simmer. Did the world really breed this many arrogant fools? 3,000 is nothing to me. He pulled out his card and bought the exact same dress to replace the ruined one. The woman couldn't hide her excitement over the new clothes, but confusion flickered in her eyes. How could a guy dressed so plainly afford that? Hold on. You think you can grab the clothes and just walk out? Chen Cheng's voice dropped to ice. Zhong-yi couldn't hold back anymore. She clung to his arm. She knew better than anyone that her husband was truly angry now. You should leave. If he loses his temper, you won't be able to handle it. The old, familiar tension flooded back. The very thing she'd always dreaded was about to happen. I paid for your dress, so the one you're wearing right now belongs to me. The woman snorted. What, do you want me to strip it off right here? What else? You think you can take what's mine and walk away? That's laughable. Chen Cheng motioned to the store staff that he wanted the manager and the sales associates to witness this. Wasn't the woman practically stealing? The heavy-set woman lost her composure. She stormed into the changing room, yanked the clothes off, and marched back out. She raised the damaged jacket, ready to hurl it at Chen Cheng, but he snatched it from her grip and tossed it straight into the trash. I don't want it anymore, so nobody gets it. Without missing a beat, he pointed to the outfits Zhong-yi had been eyeing earlier. Wrap all of those up. Sir, doesn't your wife need to try them on? The store manager's voice wavered, visibly intimidated by the man in front of her. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she never would have believed a scene like this. I know her size. The confident smile Chen Cheng gave made Zhong-yi's cheeks burn all the way to her throat. You talk too much. The final total came to 7,900 yuan. Well within his budget, and worth every single cent. Zhong-yi didn't say a word on the walk home. She just let him hold her hand. That long-missed feeling settled deep in her chest. A man who stood up for her, that was exactly the kind of reliability she craved. What are you thinking about? I've asked you 3 times now. What do you want to eat? Chen Cheng tapped her nose lightly. Oh, anything's fine. She snapped out of her daze. You're a mother. If the kids turn out as scatterbrained as you, what are we going to do? A hint of amusement laced his sigh. And you're a father. Why are you still so impulsive? The kids better not take after you. Zhong-yi stuck out her tongue, and the spontaneous gesture made Chen Cheng laugh. The feeling hit him like a jolt from the past, back to their college days, when she used to tease him just the same way before he could stop it. Tears brimmed in his eyes. Wife, don't leave me to live alone this time. Zhong-yi looked confused. She tumbled the words through her mind but couldn't piece together what he meant. Chen Cheng, you've been acting strange lately. I can't quite put my finger on it, but are you hiding something from me? No, of course not. I would never hide anything from you. He smiled lightly and paid the bill in one smooth motion. Now it was time to upgrade his own wardrobe. Because he'd been stuck at the factory for so long, he only picked out a suit and a winter coat, enough to cover different occasions. A pair of leather shoes completed the look. You look handsome. Zhong-yi laughed as she climbed onto the back of the bicycle, clutching snacks for the kids. I can't hear you. Say it louder. Forget it. You didn't hear me. That's your problem. She shook her head firmly. A man shouldn't get too much sugar, or he'd turn spoiled. That evening, after tucking the children into bed, Chen Cheng headed back to the factory. He'd already told Zhong-yi he would be sleeping there for the next few days to wrap things up. Well, look who decided to show up. Mr. Chen finally has time for us. Zhu Kaiyang struggled to sit up on his cot, a freshly soaked instant noodle cup in his hand. I brought real food, and no matter how rough things get, you don't need to live on noodles. Before Chen Cheng could say another word, Feng Elio burst in, drawn by the smell. They scrambled for the takeout like wild animals. Chen Cheng couldn't believe his eyes, these 2 food factory veterans, falling apart over a hot meal. So tomorrow is our first battle. What's the plan? Zhu Kaiyang bit into a chicken leg and mumbled the question. I'll start by educating them on angel investing. Anyone who sees potential in our factory or wants to become a distributor gets priority. Chen Cheng explained that even if they eventually dissolved their agreement, he could still leverage the connections he built. Now the world ran on networks, and every person who joined the table was no joke. You're absolutely right about that. That's what I respect about you, straight to the point. Zhu Kaiyang nodded, admiration in his eyes. But you've got more to handle. Potential clients are one thing. Our enemies are going to press down on us, too. He was right. The damage Kui Xiaoqi and her crew could do was massive. To survive, they'd have to deal with Mo Yufar first. Huang Tenghui could wait. I see that look on your face. You've already got it figured out. I won't ask any more. Zhu Kaiyang smacked his lips, stood up, and dragged over a whiteboard he'd borrowed for the occasion. Honestly, I've never given a lecture before. This is my first time. You guys let me know if there's anything I can improve. The whiteboard was covered with examples from recent years, case studies of what angel investing could accomplish. Zhu Kaiyang was about to walk through the entire process again. Chen Cheng and Feng Elio watched the entire pitch, completely hooked. There wasn't a single dull moment. Zhu Kaiyang might not be a professional, but when it came to planning, the guy was next level. He knew exactly how to hit every emotional chord, and more importantly, he understood what every investor actually cared about: money, security. That was it. Once they saw that, there was nothing left to hesitate over. Go with this plan. I'm in. Same here. Chen Cheng and Feng Elio spoke one after the other. Nothing to nitpick. Then it's settled. Get ready for tomorrow. Zhu Kaiyang slumped back in his chair, relieved, and waved at Chen Cheng. Start clearing out the room next door. What? Chen Cheng blinked. We need a conference room. You want them watching me roll out of bed every morning? Zhu Kaiyang rolled his eyes. What was wrong with this guy? Fair point. Chen Cheng hadn't thought of that. He grabbed a broom and signaled Feng Elio to help clean up. By 2 in the morning, the conference room actually looked presentable. A whiteboard sat waiting in the corner. The next morning, Chen Cheng pulled a bus right into the factory lot. A crowd of middle-aged and older folks stepped out. At their age, they had spare cash stashed away, and this time, most of them were already sold. Zhu Kaiyang had laid everything out during their phone calls. All he needed now was one final push to seal the deal. The whole presentation was pure emotional fire. Everyone was hooked. Mr. Zhu, can we really become angel investors? I've got 100,000 here, and I'll have my wife bring another 100,000 later. Once the first person raised his hand, the floodgates opened. That was how it worked. They had estimated raising $1 million. The actual cash that hit the table was more than double. $2,300,000 all in cash, right in front of Chen Cheng. Let's go bank. Chen Cheng wasn't about to leave that kind of money sitting in the factory. Times were rough, and while people weren't paranoid about asset protection yet, he wasn't taking any chances. The branch manager's face lit up the moment he heard about a big deposit. He hurried over to greet Chen Cheng and Zhu Kaiyang. $2,300,000 all cash. You taking it? The manager froze. Who still had this much cash lying around these days? When he saw the Porsche's trunk, he immediately called over bank staff to load the money into safety boxes. They didn't start counting until everything was locked inside the vault. 10 minutes later, the manager walked back, all smiles. Mr. Chen, the count is confirmed. $2,300,000. Every cent accounted for. Checking or savings? The difference between checking and savings was huge. Chen Cheng didn't even hesitate. Checking that he'd need this money every single day. No way he was locking it up to keep things running smoothly. He bought a professional POS system. IT let him track transfers and payments. No smartphones yet. But every record would be saved. Finally got that off my chest. Now that the money's here, let's get to work. Chen Cheng's first target was Mo Yufar. Tracking him down wasn't hard. He'd already heard through the grapevine. Mo Yufar had been hanging out at the Four Corners tea house every day alone. Mr. Mo. You are. Mo Yufar turned at the voice. The young man in the sharp suit looked familiar, but he couldn't place the name Chen Cheng. That name should ring a bell. Chen Cheng sat down, signaling the waitress for a cup of tea. If I'm not mistaken, we don't know each other, and I don't particularly enjoy chatting with strangers. Mo Yufar started to get up, but Chen Cheng's next words pinned him right back to his seat. You can walk if you want. Just remember, no one knows about your little secret. Yet. Mo Yufar's face went cold. He forced a laugh and sank back down. What do you want? What secret? You know exactly what. I'm aware of the dirty little games you've been playing behind your father-in-law's back. Want me to spell it out? Chen Cheng's eyes flicked toward the front desk. The girl working there was pretty, great figure, nice face. Too bad Mo Yufar had already ruined her. I think we have a lot to talk about. This way, please. Mo Yufar's tone turned serious as he gestured toward a private room. Too many eyes and ears out here. Chen Cheng had him right where he wanted him. I'm not the type to dig into other people's privacy. Especially not someone who used their connections to shut down my factory. The minute the words left Chen Cheng's mouth, Mo Yufar rushed to defend himself. He claimed he didn't even know who Chen Cheng was back then. Kui Xiaoqi had led him around by the nose, but it was all over now. He'd already told his father-in-law to back off. Is that so? Do you really think that covers it? Chen Cheng's voice dripped with mockery. He didn't look at Mo Yufar like he was even human anymore. Let's cut the crap. Tell me what you want. I'm not doing anything that crosses the line. Mo Yufar gritted his teeth. If it weren't for that front desk girl, he never would have given Chen Cheng this kind of leverage. What was he supposed to do? There was only one decent tea house in town. It wasn't like he could go to a bar. I don't care about your personal life. I only care about my factory. Starting now, you don't help Kui Xiaoqi with anything, not a single request. Do you even know what kind of relationship I have with Kui Xiaoqi? Do you have any idea what that would cost me? Mo Yufar stared at Chen Cheng, a cold dread settling in his gut. I don't. But I'm sure you'll figure out a way. You've been in business long enough. Your head's still good for something, isn't it? After a long pause, Mo Yufar let out a defeated breath. Fine. No point arguing now. Chen Cheng raised his teacup and clinked it against Mo Yufar's. Here's to a smooth partnership. Mo Yufar couldn't find a single thing to smile about, but faced with Chen Cheng's smug satisfaction, he had no choice. He forced his lips into a grin. The moment Chen Cheng walked out, Mo Yufar collapsed into the sofa like a rag doll. How had he never noticed how terrifying this young man was? The kind of cold that crept right down your spine. After dealing with Mo Yufar, Chen Cheng headed into town. Huang Tenghui wouldn't be that easy. The guy had clawed his way up from nothing, and men like that were tough as nails, hard as rock. You couldn't crack them with the same approach, so Chen Cheng needed a different strategy for Huang Tenghui. Take a look around. Cigarettes and liquor, once they're out the door, no returns. Huang Tenghui droned his standard greeting. Bored. He didn't even register who'd walked in. I don't need any of that. I just want to have a proper talk with you, Boss Huang. Huang Tenghui raised his head, confused. He knew that face, Chen Cheng's face. He'd seen it in the papers so many times. He'd started picturing it without realizing. Chen Cheng? Boss Huang, I'm here to ask for your help. Let's talk somewhere private. Chen Cheng smiled and gestured toward the door. Huang Tenghui hesitated, then followed. They found a small restaurant in town, ordered a few dishes and a bottle of baijiu. So, what brings Boss Chen to me? Paying respects, are you? Huang Tenghui wasn't one to be swayed easily, but he wasn't about to refuse a meal. He uncapped the baijiu, poured himself a full glass, and drank without waiting for Chen Cheng to join him. You know exactly why I'm here. Name your price. What will it take for you to back off? Chen Cheng filled his own glass as he spoke, his eyes never leaving the other man. You. Why pick a fight with Kui Xiaoqi, of all people? I'll be honest, I like your guts and your brains, but there's a thing called first come, first served. Whatever new product you roll out, we'll copy it down to the last detail. His meaning was clear. At best, he'd give Chen Cheng a day's head start, but now, with Kui Xiaoqi's fully operational production line, it probably wasn't even half a day. You're right. But I'm the kind of guy who likes to fight, especially when someone's trying to steal my business. So name your price. I can't just toss out a number. Depends on what you bring to the table, Boss Chen. Huang Tenghui was an old fox, throwing the question right back. He knew how quickly things could spiral if he tipped his hand too soon. He wasn't about to be that reckless. I'll give you one district's distribution rights in town, and I promise you, Kui Xiaoqi will be out of business within 2 weeks. Chen Cheng said it without flinching, right there in front of him. You're absolutely crazy, but I won't take advantage. If your rinky-dink factory can hold out for 3 days, I'll take your deal. Huang Tenghui knew exactly how little Chen Cheng had to work with. His production line, his cash flow, none of it could match Kui Xiaoqi's. A guy like that wouldn't last 3 days. Honestly, half a day seemed optimistic. Deal. I hope you keep your word. Chen Cheng stood up with a smile and paid the bill without hesitation. If you can hang on for 3 days, kid, I'll come to you myself. Huang Tenghui didn't take that line seriously. Later, when he found out Chen Cheng had actually pulled it off, he was stunned. By the time Chen Cheng got back to the food factory, Zhu Kaiyang and Feng Yilio were sitting around playing cards. You seem really happy today. What's the good news? Big problem solved. Time to start the price war. Chen Cheng grinned and laid out the results. 3 days, it was a done deal. Beautiful. Zhu Kaiyang slammed his cards down and sprinted into the factory. Hey, the round's not over. Where are you going? Feng Yilio yelled, clutching his last card. Zhu Kaiyang was clearly trying to dodge paying up. When Chen Cheng's food factory adjusted its pricing strategy, most people didn't believe it would work. The old marketing approach no longer applied. Drop it 50 cents, fight that kid to the death. Kui Xiaoqi reacted fast. He had people monitoring the market around the clock, so every move Chen Cheng made was under his watch. Drop it 40 cents. Let's see who blinks first. With that much capital, Chen Cheng was confident he could start a price war. His goal was to leave all of Kui Xiaoqi's product stuck in inventory. Sure, they used nitrogen packaging, but food without preservatives couldn't last long. Those pies only kept for 2 or 3 days. After that, they'd go bad, and Kui Xiaoqi, trying to crush him on every front, would definitely overproduce. I checked, Kui Xiaoqi's Fengyuan food factory hasn't stopped for a second. Machines and workers are running around the clock. Feng Yilio rushed back with intel he'd gotten through connections. If that was true, Chen Cheng would calculate based on the production line's capacity. He quickly scribbled numbers on paper. How much inventory Kui Xiaoqi had, how much was shipping. Even at Chen Cheng's most optimistic estimates, Kui Xiaoqi would start today with over 20,000 units of unsold stock, and that number was only climbing. Add in the inventory from yesterday and the day before, and he was looking at least 100,000 units sitting in his warehouse. 100,000 units. Even at 50 cents a piece, that's 50 grand in losses. But the real killer isn't the product, it's the labor, the machines, the electricity, all of it's going to bury him. Zhu Kaiyang calculated that at this rate, Fengyuan food factory could last maybe 10 days maximum. After that, Kui Xiaoqi would be bankrupt. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That gives us 5 days to turn things around. By then, all our debts will be covered. Foam Elio was ecstatic. It felt like seeing the future. What really started to worry Kui Xiaoqi was the reek coming from his warehouse. The pies were spoiling, and the stench was worse than he'd imagined. Poor seals, plus no refrigeration, bacterial growth is out of control. The factory manager reported the situation. Warehouse 2 only had 20,000 units fit for sale. Of course, the production line was still running. They'd hit 50,000 by tonight. Stop production, get rid of it all. Kui Xiaoqi choked on the words. This move was going to swallow up the last 2 days' revenue. Fortunately, he had deep pockets and could still hold on. Anyone else would have been finished by now. I'll get on it right away. The manager hurried out. Time was money. By the next day, the factory owner had already dropped his price again. Just a few pennies apiece, fresh stock, no gimmicks, production details printed right on the packaging, and no matter what her rival tried, she couldn't escape a brutal truth: her pies were spoiling. What if we switch up the batch numbers to throw him off? Her manager muttered. It was their last card against the factory owner's onslaught. He doesn't have the reserves. We do. Tell the workers to slash the price, 4 for $1. The rival was going all in. She knew they'd be selling at a loss, but her pride wouldn't let her fold. She never imagined she'd burn through years of savings in 3 days. That afternoon, she invited 2 local businessmen for tea at a nearby tea house. Both men flinched when they saw her. Was this really the same confident woman they used to fear? Old friend, what the hell happened? You look 10 years older. One nearly dropped his cup. Don't ask. I called you here to borrow money. Help me out, for old time's sake. She hated begging, but if her suppliers or distributors caught wind of a cash crunch, they'd turn on her instantly. Better to lose face in front of friends than lose the whole war. Fine, how much? The second man didn't hesitate. He slid a bank card across the table. The first one hesitated, then pulled out his own card. I don't have much. This is everything I've got. She accepted both with a grateful nod and raised her cup. She didn't linger. She rushed straight back to the factory, but when she tried to withdraw the money, reality hit. One card had $3,000, the other, $1,500. Those two-faced bastards had played her. Boss. The manager ran in and found her drained, hollowed out. Shut it down. Pay the workers last month's wages first. She tapped the 2 cards on the desk. The total was barely enough. Got it. The manager didn't ask questions. He assumed she was calling it quits. At least there was some cash left, but when he came back, she was gone, vanished without a trace, like she'd never been there at all. That evening, an uninvited guest showed up at the factory owner's food plant. Tell your boss a local distributor is here to see him. The man had been dreading this moment, but there he was, gift baskets in hand, ready to play nice. Everyone knew the factory owner's operation had pulled off a miracle in 2 days. He'd recouped all his losses, pie prices had stabilized, and he'd announced limited daily output, less supply, more demand. Customers were lining up earlier and hungrier than ever. Mr. Factory Owner, you're looking well. It's been a while. The words almost came out sarcastic. The distributor couldn't help the smirk when he thought about the rival. Flattery will get you everywhere this way. The factory owner needed this man. His distribution network in town was critical. I know you're planning to break into our local market, the distributor said. Look, the town's a different animal from the city, but it's got its own advantages. Around here, food and drink were bought from town stores, the supply chain was local, people liked supporting their own. So here's my proposal, the factory owner countered. I'll send my factory's products to you first, at cost. All I ask is you don't mark them up too much. That was exactly what the distributor wanted to hear. Rumor had it the factory owner was launching new products, and he'd rushed over to lock in a deal. The rumors were true. Good thing he'd picked the right side. Then I'm in. I'll cover the travel expenses as long as you're in charge, Mr. Factory Owner. You won't hear a word against me. The factory owner smiled on the outside. Inside, he was swearing. He still had a long way to go before locking down those channels. He had to move faster than his other competitor. Otherwise, it was game over. Not bankruptcy, but a hell of a lot of wasted time, and that was the last thing he wanted. I'll be off then. Take care, Mr. Factory Owner. The distributor shook his hand and left. After seeing him out, the factory owner shifted to the next phase. Old partner, which direction should we look at next? His business partner raised an eyebrow. He had several ideas. You ever tried foreign fast food? Foreign fast food? The factory owner laughed. You mean burgers and fries? Of course. Back in college, fast food was the cheapest thing near campus. He couldn't afford anything else. Even now, with money, he still grabbed fries sometimes to remember those days. Damn, you're full of surprises. I figured nobody around here had ever tried it. His partner grinned. I end this area. A burger cost $12. 2 slices of bread topped with a palm-sized piece of chicken. A luxury. So you're thinking raw ingredient processing? The factory owner shook his head. Fast food chains had their own supply chains, mostly imported, and just because something was trendy didn't mean everyone would buy in. No, you're missing the point. I'm saying we copy the fast food model. His partner rolled his eyes. All right, keep going. Sorry for cutting you off. The factory owner motioned for him to continue. It was simple. Most people weren't that busy, especially the ones with nothing to do. They were the perfect target. We create different series, combo meals, gift boxes. Once you launch one series, you can keep pulling in money wave after wave. After working with the factory owner long enough, his partner had picked up the lingo. What's the most important thing in the 21st century? Chen Cheng asked with a grin. Feng Yilv started to answer, but Zhu Kaiyang cut him off. Brains. You've got the smarts to figure anything out if you've got brains. Wrong. Innovation. If we don't innovate, we'll be scraping for quick cash forever, and that's as good as dead. So Chen Cheng decided to scale the brand from now on. His own name was out. I'll change the factory name when I acquire Fengyuan. Branding needs to catch up. For now, food is the only way to turn things around. Chen Cheng still had his eye on the kids market, but he knew a big market didn't mean adults wouldn't eat their products. So the real target was adults. They had the purchasing power. So what's your answer? Let's hear it. Zhu Kaiyang could tell Chen Cheng already had a solid plan. Timing was everything now. He needed to line up all the details. Health. People need to focus on health. So I'm launching a new line of products around a healthy theme. And yes, I've already locked down sourcing. Chen Cheng told Zhu Kaiyang he planned to consolidate the nuts industry and roll out roasted nuts as their flagship product. Fruitcakes are mainstream. We already have pies for pastry, and of course we'll add more varieties and styles. He explained they'd switch from traditional pulping to cold chain injection filling. It would raise the bar significantly. These were all new concepts to Zhu Kaiyang. He was more interested in the cold chain injection pastries. Nuts felt a little weak. The market price was what it was. The hardest part was making the price work for everyone. Don't overthink it. Cheap sells volume, premium sells volume. As long as our quality is solid, we'll be fine. That actually lined up with what Zhu Kaiyang had said about gift boxes and sets. With their brand power, they could become a dark horse in 2005. Success or failure would come down to how this month played out. Come on, let's go Big Feng, you drive. They walked out and saw Chen Cheng hadn't rented a Porsche, just a beat-up Fukang. Sorry, guys, this is all I can afford to rent right now, but business isn't about appearances. Chen Cheng was going to see Kui Xiaoqi, so no need for a big show. Huang Tenghui had tipped him off on where to find the man, otherwise no one would have tracked him down easily. Kui Xiaoqi no longer looked like a boss. In his own words, life had pretty much crushed him. You here to laugh at me? Kui asked coldly, staring at Chen Cheng. I'm here to talk business. Chen Cheng slapped a carton of cigarettes on the table. A fresh carton of Taschen, 70 yuan a carton. Decent everyday smokes. So what business do you want? Kui Xiaoqi tore the carton open. He hadn't smoked in days. The butts in the ashtray had been relit again and again. Watching the man savor the cigarette, Chen Cheng didn't have the heart to interrupt. He waited until Kui finished. I'm taking over Fengyuan Food Factory and no need to mortgage it. I'll take all the machines and employees off your hands. How about that? Kui Xiaoqi didn't answer. He just stared at Chen Cheng with an odd look. Maybe 5 or 6 minutes later, when the cigarette almost burned his fingers, he snapped out of it. Fengyuan is a hot potato right now, not just you. Nobody could turn it around. Kui Xiaoqi had learned one thing. Failure wasn't scary, losing people's trust was. I'm confident. Name your price. I won't argue. Chen Cheng motioned for Feng Yilv to bring out a few things, several pies. I never want to see these things again. When they were making money, those pies were as precious as gold. Now that he'd lost everything, what was there to look at? But when Chen Cheng said he would buy back all the pies that had quality issues, Kui Xiaoqi's expression shifted. He never imagined the problem he couldn't solve for so long would be handled so simply and so perfectly. Maybe I'm not cut out for business. I can't play the backstabbing game like you. Kui Xiaoqi said 100,000 yuan. He'd count it as a personal favor to Chen Cheng. No problem. I'll give you 110,000. The extra 10,000 is my gesture. Chen Cheng had Feng Yilv swipe the card. Funds transferred. They signed the contract. The whole process took less than 10 minutes. After Kui Xiaoqi signed, he sank to the floor. So this was what total despair felt like. With the first step done, Chen Cheng began the full relocation. Relocation really meant returning the machines and such. He didn't need to keep buying them. After settling all outstanding payments, he announced Fengyuan Food Factory would officially be renamed Renren Foods. Here's the plan. We'll keep the old factory as a transit warehouse, a sub-warehouse for logistics. Chen Cheng asked Zhu Kaiyang to pick a date for a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Things were finally on track. He wanted everyone to see what they'd pulled off in a month. Hold off on the ribbon-cutting. We're in good shape, but you still owe money. Zhu Kaiyang threw cold water on it. Holding the ceremony now would piss off the people they owed, and there'd be no way to refuse if they wanted to increase their investment. The best move was to spend a few more days clearing out the factory's inventory, pay off the debts, then launch the new operation. Fine point. 2 more days of hard work. Let's push through. Chen Cheng smiled and told everyone to get moving. He said they'd throw a party that night and go eat in town. Big Feng, bring the ledger. Let's see what we've got left. After accounting for profits, Chen Cheng's account had well over 2.3 million yuan, but he'd paid Kui 100,000, and there were machines and production lines to upgrade. The biggest bite was next month's operating capital, roughly 300,000. After all that, 1,000 yuan was left. That's it. Chen Cheng stared. He hadn't expected the number to be that low. Can't help it. You promised them a 5% profit. On 2.3 million, the interest alone is nearly 150,000. Actually, tallying up the numbers was more trouble than it was worth, but if the accounts weren't clear, problems would pop up sooner or later. Chen Cheng had drilled that into everyone more than once. He had to enforce it strictly. Old Jew, Let's set up a proper system from now on. We follow the rules. We can't run a growing business without discipline. Zhu Kaiyang had considered it himself, but the timing wasn't right. Imposing formal regulations on a factory converted from a farm would just piss off the workers. The idea got shelved, and nothing ever came of it. Got it. The rules will be ready in 2 days, but I need to warn you, if we're really going to expand into all those industries, you can't keep playing games with payments. Zhu was right. He was worried Chen Cheng was pushing too hard and would burn through their cash flow. Relax. I'll settle with them by the end of the month. From now on, everything will be above board. That evening, Chen Cheng went home and packed a small bag, just a suit and a change of clothes. Zhongyi noticed the commotion and immediately jumped to conclusions. She thought he was leaving her. What are you doing? Don't tell me this house isn't good enough for you anymore. Or is there someone else? No, where'd you get that idea? I'm just going on a 2-day business trip to seal a deal. If you don't believe me, come along. I honestly don't mind. You know full well I have to stay home with the kids, so you say that on purpose. What are you really hiding from me? Zhongyi rarely lost her temper, but this time she meant it. She was starting to realize she couldn't live without him anymore. The food factory opens the day after tomorrow. I've got 2 days to lock down a supplier out of town. It's not far, just the place where Kui Xiaoqi used to get her stock. And on opening day, even if you refuse to come, I'll carry you there myself. Really? She stared hard at him. If that man's eyes flickered even a little, she'd find a way to straighten him out. Of course it's real. My heart is as clear as day when it comes to you. If you don't believe me, come listen for yourself. Chen Cheng said it with total conviction. Right then, both kids appeared out of nowhere in front of him. Why you stood with her hands on her hips like a tiny adult. Dad's bullying Mom again. Yeah, Dad won't let us listen to his heart. Xiao Fei pouted and chimed in. You two are really my little nemesis. You've had your fun, now get to school. Big kids like you can't just hang around the house all day. Chen Cheng snapped out of it, but Zhongyi had already slipped out of his grasp. Apparently, she needed to keep some dignity in front of the kids. Dad, it's nighttime now. We're already out of school. Xiao Fei said it slowly, enunciating every word. What was I thinking? Fine, go do your homework. Chen Cheng sighed. This kid had to have gotten that sharp tongue from somewhere else, because it definitely wasn't from him. Now the boy was already putting him in his place. He'd have to find more chances to be alone with his wife, or these two little troublemakers would ruin every moment of their private time. The next morning, Zhongyi watched from the doorway as Chen Cheng got into the car. This was his first real trip away from home. He already knew where the best nuts came from these days. Domestic brands had started monopolizing the market, and nut companies were popping up everywhere, but the real source was on the outskirts of this city, Yingwu Town. Yingwu Town doesn't have any parrots, you know. It's actually a twist on the word Yingwu, heroic martial. What brings you here anyway? The taxi driver was talkative, chatting away with Chen Cheng the whole ride. When you're on the road, taxi drivers, street vendors, and cleaners always know the most inside info. IT probably had something to do with being close to the ground. That rule never changed, no matter where you went. I'm just checking out the market. I heard the nuts here are top quality. Chen Cheng smiled and told the driver he wanted to buy some to take back. You came to the right guy. I'll tell you, this town's nuts are top-notch, but not just anyone can afford them. Go to Hu Zi's place at the east end of town. Don't bother anywhere else. The driver didn't explain why. He just gave Chen Cheng the tip. Was there something special about Yingwu Town? Not sure what to make of it, Chen Cheng first checked into a small inn that would be his base for the next 2 days. $100 for 2 nights. Not bad, since hardly anyone stayed here. But the nuts really weren't everywhere. Every person he asked said the same thing, whose had the best. This is it.huz wholesale. Chen Cheng looked at the sign above the door. Inside, there were all kinds of nuts on display. Wholesale or just buying to eat? The owner's wife greeted him warmly and handed him a handful to try. Let me take a look first. I hear the nuts here are pretty famous. What makes them so special? Chen Cheng smiled, acting like a complete newcomer. Famous because of the quality. Go ahead, try one. She peeled a walnut for him right there. The taste was undeniable. When he asked about the price, he almost choked. Were they trying to rob him? Forget it. I'm not buying. Your walnuts cost more than gold. Chen Cheng waved his hands and turned to leave. Think you can just walk away? Around here, once you step into whose place, you don't leave without buying. The woman's voice turned cold. It was clear she was planning to force a sale. So Ingwu town has an unwritten rule. Whatever you say goes. Chen Cheng found it almost funny. Sure, it was 2005, but they couldn't treat outsiders like this. Just then, an old man resting by the door called back to him. Kid, that's the rule in Ingwu town. Whether you're buying wholesale or retail, if it's nuts, nobody will sell to you but whose. The old man's eyes were full of disdain, but he was used to it. Too many people had come and gone. Fine. I'll buy wholesale. Give me a pound of each. Chen Cheng said it boldly. He wanted to see exactly how much this stuff cost by the pound. Kid, I'd advise you not to pick a fight. Ingwu town isn't as simple as you think. Do yourself a favor and tell the boss lady nicely what you want. Maybe there's still a way out. The old man's voice came again, surprising Chen Cheng. And if I don't? Wang Ping'an had barely finished speaking when a man stepped outside. He waved the shopkeeper back in, then faced Wang Ping'an. Then you won't be able to buy a single thing in this town. Then give me 10 pounds. Wang Ping'an smiled. Fine. If this guy wanted to play hardball, he'd push back even harder. 10 pounds? Hugh asked flatly. I doubt you can swing that. You seriously want 10 pounds? I said, if you have it, I'll take it all, but don't give me that low-grade stuff. It'll kill someone. Without another word, Hugh turned and went inside to weigh the nuts. He bagged a handful of every variety. Not 10 pounds, barely half a pound. This is your limit. This town has rules. Take it and pay. He tallied the price. It wasn't expensive actually, pretty cheap. About a dozen types of nuts for just $100. Wang Ping'an picked one nut from each bag and tasted it. He'd swear these were the best plain roasted nuts he'd ever eaten, and no matter how many snack shops he'd tried, nothing matched the pure flavor of this town's nuts. Don't get ahead of yourself, Hugh said. These are processed. If you want to buy wholesale, I can only sell you raw nuts. That's the rule. This town was a place ruled by strict regulations, ecology, economy, everything ran by rules. No household could break them. It had been that way for decades. We grew up in the nut business before. Hardly anyone bought in bulk. Most were just messing around. That's how we've always handled it. He told Wang Ping'an he wasn't worried about running out of nuts. They'd manage on their own if they had to, but there was no need to be greedy. Moving £100 a month would make him happy. Might need even more, Wang Ping'an said. Let's start with £100 and see how it goes. Nuts don't keep forever. He was already planning. Nuts wouldn't be as simple as pastries, different product, different customers. Now he also had to figure out how to extend the shelf life of his baked goods without harming anyone's health. All right, let's talk cost, Hugh said. You arrange the pickup, and we'll settle on the price later. He wasn't in a hurry to collect money that way. If the nuts didn't sell, Wang Ping'an could return them without losing a cent. With that initial problem sorted, Wang Ping'an began surveying the town's geography and climate. He had to understand what made their nuts so unique. That was the real key. Only then could he nail down his food line. He couldn't just invent a sales pitch out of thin air. That afternoon, he visited Feng Yang's old supplier, Old Jiang, the only noodle and flour vendor in town. "You're Xiaoqi's friend, right? He told me about you. He's been buying from me for 4 years. Old Jiang was a kindly old man. He invited Wang Ping'an to sit for tea. "When you're new around here, don't be shy about asking questions. Stay cautious, but don't do anyone harm. I honestly didn't expect this town to be like this," Wang Ping'an said with an awkward smile. "I've made quite a few blunders. That's this town for you. Only by living through it do you understand what the people here are really like." Old Jiang explained that decades ago, the town had set an unwritten rule. Each household could only engage in one trade. "That's great," Wang Ping'an said. "No competition, mutual benefit." It was a solid balance. If you could build that kind of circle, any business that joined it would thrive. That's why no outsider moves into this town, and no local leaves. Old Jiang said there was a lot more to it, but it all boiled down to one word: unity. Unity built this town, and that business model would continue because everyone had grown used to it. "So I came here to really understand this town," Wang Ping'an said. "Only by knowing the town's heartbeat can I take my products further." He told Old Jiang that like Feng Yang, he was looking for suppliers right now. He needed to fill in the gaps for his food line. He'd get noodles and flour from here, and the rest was nuts. "Just work it out with Hude," Old Jiang said. "I'm telling you, it's not that Hude can't sell nuts elsewhere. It's that this town made Hude, and this town made the nuts, you understand?" At first, Wang Ping'an didn't get it, but when he started digging, he saw the truth. Because of the town's terrain and water source, the nuts came out plump and rich, no worse than imported goods. Plus, the traditional processing saved him a ton of trouble. Basically, he could just take them and process them further. He didn't need their recipes. Every roaster had their own method. "Looking at your face, I think you get it," Old Jiang said. "Let's talk business. Here's the account book Xiaoqi and I used. See if this price works for you." He handed over the ledger without hiding anything. "I can accept that," Wang Ping'an said. "But if the price ever changes, please let me know. As long as I'm still in business, I'll keep buying from you." He smiled and said goodbye. He had a lot of homework to do. Not having any wheels in town was a pain, but right now, not having a cell phone was the real killer. He had to get one, or communication would be impossible. "All right, that's enough for today. Time to sleep." He yawned. There was no hot water in the room, so he splashed cold water on his face, brushed his teeth hastily, and closed his eyes. But in the middle of the night, a frantic knock rattled his door. "What the hell? Can't a person get any sleep?" Wang Ping'an called out, annoyed. Who the hell was banging on his door in the middle of the night? Chen Cheng didn't want to get up and open the door, but the pounding got louder and louder, like someone was trying to break through the wall. "Whoever the hell you are, you'd better have a damn good explanation." He yanked the door open and a drunk woman tumbled inside. She was mumbling something, but her voice was too slurred to make out. "Hey, wrong room." He shoved her back out. He didn't care who she was. He wasn't letting some stranger crash here, but she wasn't easy to shake. She crawled right past him, onto the bed, and slipped under the covers. "You asked for it, sorry." He went into the bathroom, filled a bucket with cold water, and dumped the whole thing on the bed. She jolted upright, gasping, eyes wild. "What the hell is your problem?" Why did you throw water on me? You broke into my room, and you're gonna act like I'm the jerk. Chen Cheng hated people who played the victim first. Looked like he wasn't getting any sleep tonight. He pulled on his clothes and headed for the door, planning to get a new room from the front desk. Where are you going? You dump water all over me and just leave. She called after him, soaked, demanding to know if he had any decency. Let me make it simple. Point 1. You came in uninvited. Point 2. I don't need anyone getting the wrong idea, so the door stays open. Point 3. I need sleep. The room's yours. He walked out without looking back. He wasn't going to waste time arguing. This was Parrot Town, after all. He checked into another room, fell into bed, and crashed. Whatever was happening outside wasn't his problem. The next morning he headed to a plantation on the edge of town. It was packed with native plants. I'm curious, Chen Cheng said. What's the deal with these? Back home we grow things in soil, not in cracks between rocks. He was genuinely surprised. The whole plantation had almost no dirt, just stones everywhere. No special trick. It gives the fruits and vegetables a natural flavor. The owner explained that the earthy taste from soil sometimes isn't real. It's just dirt. That's not nature. True natural flavor doesn't make you wrinkle your nose or feel gross. That hit home. There was real wisdom in it. Chen Cheng had already sized up Parrot Town. This self-sufficient little place was stable for now, but it wouldn't last. Times were changing, relying on old traditions to get by. That was a dead end. He needed to build a complete supply chain with Tiger. And it wasn't just about nuts. Hey, Boss Tiger. I'm back. Chen Cheng smiled and took a seat like he belonged there. I'm guessing you didn't come here to buy stuff this time. Tiger already knew. Right. I want to know if you're interested. Chen Cheng laid out his thoughts, including his vision for the future. Parrot Town could level up. Outsiders couldn't touch their system anyway. You're right, the way we're going now won't hold up long term. Everyone knows what happens when you work in a bubble. Tiger laughed at himself. He believed Chen Cheng had what it took to drive change here, so he asked him to help transform the place. At least give it a solid foundation for the future. Funny you should say that. I've got an idea. Chen Cheng wanted to start a milk tea brand using the nuts as a base. Right now, there was only one milk tea shop on the whole commercial street. If he could make milk tea a household staple, that would be the ultimate sales strategy. Then I'll supply you with nuts. No conditions. I hope you really can make a miracle happen. Tiger said if it worked out, he'd be happy to be Chen Cheng's supplier, even let him buy the whole operation in exchange. All he wanted was growth for Parrot Town. He had no idea that one day this place would become the largest organic industrial park in southern China. Once the deal was set, Chen Cheng pulled out a business card and used the landline to call Tang Xing. Who's this? Tang Xing's voice was lazy, like he'd just woken up. It's Chen Cheng. I need a favor. Send me 3 heavy trucks. He gave his location. Parrot Town was easy enough to find. What do you need trucks for? Don't expect me to front the freight fees. Besides, you've got plenty of cash now. Tang Xing laughed. He'd already seen Chen Cheng's transfer. No one in town could touch him financially. Don't worry. Pay the standard rate. I just need them here fast to haul my goods. Chen Cheng hung up, grabbed a stool, and sat by the door waiting. About 3 hours later, the trucks rolled in slowly and stopped. Okay, Tiger, I need you to help load everything up. I want 100 pounds of each item. His previous stock wasn't nearly enough. He needed to make a splash on day 1. 100 pounds would last him maybe 3 days. After that, the nuts would be past their peak. He didn't have a perfect way to get people to accept them yet. Growing the stuff was one thing, keeping it fresh was another. They worked until nightfall. Almost everyone in Parrot Town came out to help. By the time the 3 trucks were fully loaded, Chen Cheng told Tiger he didn't know when he'd be back, so the payment would have to wait. No problem. I'll wait for you. I believe you can pull off a miracle. A lot of people were surprised by Tiger's attitude. It was completely different from his usual stance, but none of them noticed the light in Tiger's eyes when he looked at Chen Cheng. Damn. Where'd you get all this stuff? What are you planning? Zhu Kaiyang was smoking a cigarette outside the factory when he saw Chen Cheng jump off a truck. He stood there, stunned. Get the workers to unload everything. This is what we're putting on the market tomorrow, so we're gonna be working late tonight. The first step was sorting. After that, everything needed roasting again. Most of the nuts weren't even fully ripe. You even have a recipe. What makes you so sure people will buy this stuff? Li Changyu was worried. Price it too high and the market wouldn't bite. They'd be stuck with a mountain of product. Relax. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't sure. Let's get to work. The recipe was simple enough. In his previous life, Wang Ping'an had been addicted to those cream-coated almonds. Once he perfected that formula, he could apply it to almost any nut. Hey, Da Feng. I need you to do something. Take this list to Huang Baichuan and tell him to mix me 50 pounds of this seasoning. Get it here fast. 50 pounds. Feng Yang nearly choked. He knew exactly how much powder that meant. What are you standing there for? Go. The nuts couldn't touch water, so they needed a special sterilization process. After that, they'd move through each station one by one, starting from the front. I think we're going to need a bigger wok for roasting, otherwise the flavor won't come through right. Wang Ping'an knew Boss Wang at the town roasted everything by hand in a wok, but if they bought pre-roasted product, they couldn't add their own seasoning. He had to find another way. Listen, Boss Wang, why don't we just go all in? For the small stuff like sunflower seeds and peanuts, we sell them shell on and let people crack them open themselves. Li Changyu pointed out that nuts had their own tiers. Expensive ones, almonds, walnuts, should be roasted the traditional way. Cheaper items like melon seeds and peanuts, people could shell them with their hands. Not a bad idea. As long as the flavor was right, they could scale it. But Wang Ping'an didn't want to go the hand-shelling route. Why bother when processing machines existed? I'll have Fu Buoluan find me the equipment. You two start tasting these seasonings. On the table sat dozens of powders and seasonings. To hit the perfect flavor, they had to sample every last one. The aroma drifting from the food processing plant soon pulled in a crowd of curious onlookers. What is that smell? Give us some. Yeah, we've never smelled anything like it. Hearing the commotion at the door, Li Changyu decided to swing the factory gates wide open. He waved Feng Yang over to set up a small tasting station. They could start negotiating with the delivery guys right then and there. The old supply chain was still in place, but the prices had to be adjusted. With so many different varieties, nobody had any idea what Wang Ping'an was really up to. A processing machine. Are you out of your mind? Do you know what those cost? Fu Buoluan flat out refused. He explained that the only reason those outdated Japanese machines still ran was because they were dirt cheap. A brand new processing machine ran over $10,000. That's why I'm asking you to figure something out. I need that machine, and it's not like we don't have the money. Wang Ping'an smiled, his voice calm and easy. Easy for you to say. Do you have any idea how close I came to losing everything because of you? This is non-negotiable. Fu Buoluan waved him off and told him to find someone else. He wasn't walking this tightrope anymore. If it came down to it, he'd rather cut ties with Wang Ping'an. Fine, see you around. Wang Ping'an walked out, expressionless. He didn't understand Fu Buoluan's reaction, But that excuse for turning him down didn't hold water. A few minutes after Wang Ping'an left, a middle-aged man stepped out of the office with a satisfied smile. Good work, Boss Fu. I was worried you wouldn't have the guts. Don't mention it. Wang Ping'an's business is getting bigger by the day. I respect that. But if he keeps expanding like this, my own livelihood's at stake. Fu Buoluan knew exactly what he was doing. Everything he'd said was pure self-interest. Sure, Wang Ping'an had thrown him plenty of business. The commission from product sales alone had let him live very comfortably, but the real kicker was this: if Wang Ping'an ever decided to cut him out, he'd end up just like Nai Xiaolong, completely screwed. Good to see you're thinking clearly. Don't worry, I'll take care of Wang Ping'an's market. The middle-aged man kept that calm smile plastered on his face, but the cold glint in his eyes told a different story. Without Fu Buoluan, Wang Ping'an had to find another way to get his hands on the machinery. If production speed fell behind once they scaled up, they'd be in serious trouble. On his way back, he ran into Huang Baichuan, who was dropping off the delivery. All 50 pounds of seasonings sat stacked at the factory gate. Hey, buddy, you look awful, making big money and you're still stressing? Huang Baichuan greeted him with a grin. He could tell something was off. You're not wrong. I'm stuck on this machinery problem. If you've got any connections, old Huang, point me in the right direction. Money's not an issue. Wang Ping'an was practically handing Huang Baichuan a chance to mark up the price. He was willing to pay extra just to get the equipment in place fast. Sure enough, Huang Baichuan's face lit up. He immediately said he knew the head of a machinery factory who could get him all sorts of equipment. That's great, look into it for me, Boss Huang. I'm going to need quite a few machines. Wang Ping'an grabbed Huang Baichuan's hand with genuine gratitude. He knew that from now on, Huang Baichuan would work fast, especially since Wang Ping'an hadn't paid him a cent for all those seasonings. If Huang Baichuan weren't eager to close the deal, he wouldn't be the man Wang Ping'an knew. About half an hour later, Huang Baichuan showed up with a middle-aged man in tow. Let me introduce you, this is Mr. Zhuang Sen, head of a machinery company, and this is my good friend, Wang Ping'an. Huang Baichuan ushered Zhuang Sen inside with a smile. They settled into the office to talk. So, Boss Wang, what kind of machines do you need, and how many? Zhuang Sen was a straight-up businessman. No small talk, just the price. If Wang Ping'an's offer was right, he'd have the machines delivered immediately. I need 5 processing machines, 1 roasting machine, and 1 filtering machine. If you've got imported ones, even better. Wang Ping'an knew that in this era, imported machines had far better filters. Buying Zhuang Sen's in-house models or some knockoff filtration system meant replacement costs alone would be a nightmare. Imported is no problem, but the price will be higher. It all depends on whether you can handle it, Boss Wang. With that, Zhuang Sen grabbed the calculator from the table and started punching in numbers. He ran the numbers in his head. 0.5 machines were 20,000 Malar, the heater 2,000, the filtration unit 5. The actual base costs weren't that high, but young Master Wu insisted on European-made equipment, which sent the total through the roof. Of course, when a mark like that walks in the door, you take him for everything he's got. Good, that's a solid price. What kind of discount can you give me, Brother Huang? Young Master Wu asked, turning to Huang Baichuan with an easy smile. That put Huang on the spot. He was already getting his cut from the deal. Haggling now meant swallowing his own commission. Well, Boss Wang's price is more than fair. He wouldn't rip you off, trust me. Huang shot Boss Wang a quick look, signaling that a small concession would go a long way. Alright, we're all friends here. I'll round it down for you, young Master Wu. 25,000, and I'll throw in the heater. That knocked 2,000 off just like that. Feng Yang stood there, stunned. Only Li Changyu stayed silent, his expression cold. He knew those machines together weren't worth 20 grand, but he couldn't say a word. Everything rested on young Master Wu now. Not bad. 25,000 works for me. I'll transfer the money after lunch. Young Master Wu stood and invited Boss Wang to join them for a meal. There were still details to discuss. Wang Feng, let's go. We need to pick up the supplies. Li Changyu caught young Master Wu's look and understood exactly what came next. If things played out the way he planned, young Master Wu was about to keep running his game. That meant Li had to front the cash for the Pegasi money. What money? Wang Feng stared back, confused. He didn't remember borrowing anything. The money for our clothes. We need it now. Whether or not we land, that 25,000 depends on these 2,000. Li Changyu's voice was flat and certain. Feng Yang suddenly felt like everyone around him was catching whatever young Master Wu had, doing things that made no sense at all. Make sure young Master Wu reimburses us for this. Otherwise, we won't even have clothes to wear when we open the business tomorrow. Li Changyu slid into the driver's seat. He wanted to feel what it was like behind the wheel of a real luxury CAIN 2005. A Pegasi was a beast, prowling through rows of Volkswagens and Citroëns. Audis and BMWs were already status symbols for the upper middle class back then. This was another level entirely. He waited until young Master Wu and his group stepped out of the factory, then hit the gas. Young Master, your father says to drop this little project and come work with us overseas. Li Changyu's voice dipped low. The dim interior kept his face hidden. No way. Why should I? I'm fine right here. What's the point of going abroad? Young Master Wu sounded agitated, his gestures oversized. Your father wants you to listen. If you don't go now, he'll cut off your funding. That was exactly the line he needed. As long as these men believed young Master Wu had a rich, powerful father pulling strings in the background, the rumors would stick. And the second Huang Baichuan saw the setup, those rumors were nailed shut. He had no clue any of it was props. Tell the old man I'm not going back until I make something happen. Don't expect me to take over the family business, it's not for me. Young Master Wu turned and steered Huang Baichuan and Boss Wang in a different direction. They went to a restaurant for lunch, and this time young Master Wu was more talkative. Sorry you had to see that. He let out a helpless sigh and downed his glass of liquor. What's the deal, Brother Wu? Your family sounds loaded. Huang Baichuan probed carefully. If there's a rift between you and your dad, can't you just talk it out? Ah, you don't get it. There's nothing to say between me and the old man. He insists I have to go abroad to prove myself, like there's no opportunity in China, right? Young Master Wu refilled his glass and turned to Boss Wang for backup. Boss Wang's curiosity sharpened. He still couldn't figure young Master Wu out. Look, Brother Wu, since we're friends, let's be straight with each other. What's really going on with you and your father? Me and my forget it. Young Master Wu waved his hand, signaling there was nothing more to say. He'd never relied on his family anyway. The old man had never had much faith in him to begin with. When I first struck out on my own, he told me if I proved myself, he'd put up a couple $100 million in funding. But now he clearly doesn't believe in my business. Young Master Wu told Boss Wang that just yesterday, his father had bought a commercial property in North Carolina and was planning to expand brick-and-mortar operations there. Damn. A commercial building abroad doesn't come cheap. You've got some serious backbone, young Master Wu. Boss Wang's voice carried genuine admiration. Let's drop it, no matter how tough it gets, I'm getting that money out of him, otherwise, my factory's dead. Young Master Wu mentioned the old man was coming back at the end of the month to check on his results. Time was running out. Every word was a clue aimed straight at Boss Wang, and he picked up on it. If he wanted to get close to the Wu family, the only way in was through this machinery deal. No more middlemen. Tell you what, I know you're in a tight spot. Don't worry about the 25,000 for the machines, pay me when your cash flow turns around. The three of them clinked glasses and drank. They couldn't offer much more right now, but they were betting everything on the old man's visit at the end of the month. If they could really get in with a family like that, they'd never have to worry about money again and no need to rot in this small town. Once the old man showed up, they'd convince him to take young Master Wu overseas. Everyone could get rich together. Exactly, Brother Wu. If you run into trouble, just tell your big brother here, I've got your back. Huang Baichuan promised to supply all the side products for free from now on, as long as young Master Wu could cover the cost by the end of the month. Thank you, both of you. Young Master Wu rubbed his eyes, his voice thick, and finished the entire bottle. He had to admit, today had been a damn good haul. I in the car, he slumped back against the seat. How'd it go? Wang Feng and I have been starving all night. Li Changyu glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Not bad, still a clean sweep. We can coast until the end of the month. Chen Cheng knew if Zhu Kaiyang hadn't thought fast earlier, they wouldn't have closed the deal so quickly. Now was the perfect time to return the car and pick up new clothes while they were at it. Everyone grabbed a sharp suit and leather shoes. This was the final prep for the big push tomorrow. Get some real rest tonight. We meet at the factory early. Chen Cheng wandered around and bought a new outfit for his kid too. Only after every detail was handled did he finally head home. You're back early. How'd the meeting go? Zhongyi had just put the two kids to bed. She got up and laid out his clean clothes. It went well. The ribbon cutting's tomorrow morning. I'm bringing you and the kids. Chen Cheng tossed the new outfit onto the couch and told Zhongyi to make sure the kids wore it. Opportunities like this didn't come often. He'd picked up something nice, the kids would love it, but they have school tomorrow. You're not seriously letting them skip, are you? Zhongyi's face went cold. What kind of father did that? This is a one-time thing. Besides, the kids will love it. Half a day off won't kill anyone. With that, Chen Cheng stripped off his clothes and crawled into bed. He'd had a little too much to drink, and his body was done. The next morning, he was up early. The kids were already bouncing around. Dad, do we really not have to go to school today? Duo was thrilled. A break from class, finally. Only half a day. Don't get too cozy. Your grades slipped this month. You won't like what happens. Chen Cheng might be a first-time father, but he understood how critical education was. If this weren't a special occasion, he'd never have let them take a morning off. At the factory, the sign above the door had already been replaced. Food Factory. The business registration was under Food Production Company, Limited. The legal representative and owner was Chen Cheng, but Zhu Kaiyang and Feng Yilu were listed as supervisors. It was the best protection he could offer his brothers. If anything ever went south, they could walk away clean from now on. You're all bosses too. I hope everyone's hard work pays off. Let's make our brand stand for something. Well said, Zhu Kaiyang chimed in. Let's call our first series Make It Mean Something. The name clearly pointed to handmade products, so pastries and similar items would fall under that line. Beyond the original fruit, egg yolk, and chocolate flavors, Chen Cheng added cakes and egg rolls, anything that could use the cold chain injection technology. Congratulations, Boss Che. The first to arrive was none other than Tang Xing, carrying an enormous Piao statue. He'd also sent flower baskets. As Chen Cheng's largest plastic supplier, he had to make an entrance. Thanks, President. Tang, please, come inside. Chen Cheng smiled as he greeted guests at the door. Along with Tang Xing, the distribution partners who'd been waiting were also ushered in. A true business genius. We'd be fools to miss this. Mo Yufar and Huang Tenghui walked in next, and what they brought was substantial. Don't argue. It's tradition. Old Zhu couldn't make it. He sends his apologies and this. Huang Tunghue smiled as he held out a gold Buddha statue. His personal gift was a jade-carved toad. "All right, I'll take you up on that, brothers." Chen Cheng called Zhu Kaiyang over to help host. Once everyone was here, they could start the ribbon cutting. This was a major day for Food Factory and every single person who worked there. Chen Cheng never imagined he'd launch his rise through food, or that everything would move this fast. "We've got a lot of reporters, you want them gone?" Feng Yilu lowered his voice in warning. He didn't trust the media. Last time the factory had problems, those reporters had stirred up every bit of the mess. "Don't piss off the media. Right now, they shape public opinion. Make sure they all get a meal." Chen Cheng accepted every interview openly. Amid the crackle of firecrackers, he took Zhongyi's hand and walked out slowly. "Why aren't Mom and Dad taking us with them?" Duo asked, confused, clutching Yu Yu's hand as they stood by Feng Yilu. "Because your Mom and Dad are still in their honeymoon phase. You'll get it when you're older," Feng Yilu said with a laugh. "Don't put ideas in their heads. Your parents are just busy, might be working on giving you a little brother or sister." Zhu Kaiyang chuckled, certain his explanation was better. When the ribbon cutting began, Chen Cheng's core team and the veterans walked out. "After you, Boss Chen." Huang Tunghue smiled, motioning for Chen Cheng to take the scissors. It all felt surreal. When had he and Chen Cheng ended up on the same side? Attending his ribbon-cutting ceremony. "We've got a lunch later. Let's all grab a bite." Chen Cheng told the bosses to follow Zhu Kaiyang to the restaurant while he stayed to address the workers. Since it was the first day, he had to manage every detail down to the last. "We're sticking to the plan. Don't plan on leaving early today. Double pay this month. Let's do this right." The former Fengyuan Food Factory workers stared in shock. They thought keeping their jobs was already a blessing. They never expected Chen Cheng to give them such generous treatment. The original employees, though, weren't surprised. "Working here beat any other gig out there." I kept wondering how Chen Cheng was going to start. But seeing every boss in town show up today, I had it all wrong. Pang Duan couldn't muster a single positive thought. Chen Cheng was becoming far too hard to read. "Don't sweat it. I'm sure Chen Cheng's diving into the kids' snack market. What else would he need those shelling machines for? He's got to be messing with nuts." "I heard he went to Parrot Town." A middle-aged man answered flatly. If Chen Cheng stepped into the nut business, he'd be walking into a death trap. The prices were practically transparent. Even with market swings, with all the roasting shops in the city, there was no reason anyone would choose Chen Cheng's products. But they were wrong. Even if the shelling machine couldn't handle massive volumes, sunflower seeds came in different varieties. Sunflower kernels could go straight from shelling to the mixing room, while watermelon seeds headed directly to the roasting station. With constant stirring during the roasting process, the seasoning seeped deep into the shells.